All right, welcome to Optional Dialogue, episode 84. Once again, I'm your host, Sebastian, and I'm joined by Dory and James.
Hello.
How you guys doing? Happy Labor Day weekend.
Yeah, taking
Ooh.
labor off. Isn't it so weird that Labor Day weekend is all about celebrating a lack of labor? You would think there's another holiday related to labor, and it's more accurately like named or whatever. Oh, that's May Day. I'm thinking about probably. But anyway, yeah, happy Labor Day, everybody.
Yeah.
Or later Labor Day weekend.
It's a
I
3-day
have
week.
no idea what you guys are talking about.
Oh, it's
Yeah, that's right.
every worker in America gets a day off on Labor Day, so it's like
Oh,
our
wow.
3-day weekend. So it's when everybody
for you
has like
guys.
a barbecue and stuff.
Huh?
Yeah,
Uh,
you guys got bank holidays. We get one Labor Day, and we'll like
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. So
Is this
go ahead.
is this the first episode we're doing? Excuse me. Is this first episode we're doing back on optional dialogue?
Nope.
Oh, no, it's not.
Technically the spoiler cast. Yeah.
I said
yeah,
I
no,
said the whole.
spoiler,
But this
I
is
set
like
the
the
whole thing up.
first full episode. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the
Nice.
first regular episode, but I introduced that we switched back to optional dialogue last week, so
Right.
everybody's all caught
Okay,
up.
so
Yeah.
so basically everyone that has played Baldur's Gate 3 knows what's up, but everyone who has not played Baldur's Gate 3 is currently very confused.
Yeah,
Oh, possibly. Yeah.
possibly. So let's introduce it again. So we decided to combine all our podcasts together into the one original optional dialogue. And from now on, we're going to be under optional dialogue. So that's why we jumped from like episode 20 something to 84. So, and nothing's really changed except for the layout and the name and everything. But we're still the same people. All right, same. Still going to be on Spotify and YouTube and things like that. So it's just pretty much we just changed the layout and the name back to the original one. So no
More
different.
flexible for everybody too.
Yeah, no
It's
different in
more
format or
flexible.
anything. So.
Yeah.
All right. So today we're gonna hit on a bunch of shows and a bunch of games. So first we're gonna hit on Sea of Stars, and then we're gonna talk about PS Plus nonsense that I'm gonna rant about, and then we're gonna talk about Ahsoka, Twisted Metal, and then the One Piece show on Netflix. Then we're gonna hit on Stray Gods, and then finally we'll hit on everything in Gamescom. So right off the bat, let's start with Sea of Stars, which Dory has put the most hours into. I've put about maybe 3 to 4 hours into it. So,
Nice.
Dory, take us away.
Yeah. So, I was talking about during the pre-show. I didn't expect to be the one who was like farthest into it. I kind of notoriously don't usually jive with turn-based, and it's not even that I dislike turn-based RPGs. It's just, I had a bad experience when I played Final Fantasy VII as a kid. Didn't know what the heck I was doing. Got lost or found the boss fights too complicated and too frustrating. And after I played Kingdom Hearts as a kid, I just started gravitating towards action RPGs more often. They in my limited experience as a child anyway, seemed more accessible. I was looking for something to play a few days ago. I had totally forgotten that Sea of Stars came to Game Pass, which was my kind of like, kind of thing that broke the camel's back on that one for me getting it. So it's just a quick download, and yeah, 15 hours later, I'm really impressed with it. I think it's a really great. One of the reviews I saw said it's a really good introduction to turn-based RPGs, and I totally agree with that. Not that I don't have any experience with turn-based RPGs. I just put 150 hours into Baldur's Gate, but that's D&D, that's 5e, that's stuff I already know and love and am very invested in as dungeon master, who plays D&D in real life. So it's a bit different, asking me to invest in a kind of a system that I'm not super familiar with, but a lot of the stuff here is pretty familiar territory. Sea of Stars is taking a lot of inspiration from Chrono Trigger and classic JRPGs from the 80s and 90s, the original Mario RPG and stuff like that. It's updated, there are autosaves. Sometimes it doesn't hurt to go back and manually save just in case, because autosaves aren't as frequent as they should be. But the number one thing you're going to notice about this game is the art style, which is just flippin' brilliant. It's gorgeous, and I love looking at it. I've taken a lot of screenshots. I don't know what, I'll probably post them eventually But then again, I said the same thing about Baldur's Gate and other games. But it is a gorgeous game to look at. It's all it's kind of parading as a 16 pixel game. But obviously there's a lot of stuff with lighting and shadows and whatnot that they could never have done on the Super Nintendo or whatever. Yeah, it's a really great game. I do have some issues with it. But we'll get into that in a second. What do y'all think? Because I know I played a lot more, but I'm curious what y'all's impressions are.
Well, on the art, I mean, I think even amongst I've got about 2.5 hours. I've just finished the kind of tutorial area. But on the art, like it's even amongst pixel art kind of games, it kind of feels especially good looking.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean the UI and everything is really clean and impressive. And well, what you're saying about, I mean, look, I'm not a big fan of turn-based RPGs either. If they're a good one, I do enjoy it. But what I was kind of really impressed with Sea of Stars is how it kind of plays with the turn-based RPG aspect of it, and it kind of makes the combat a bit more active by introducing things like you can increase your damage if you hit a button at the time the attack lands,
Right, yep.
or you can reduce your damage taken if you press a button when you get attacked at the
Yep.
right time. And there's a lot of that kind of timing stuff.
I don't know if anyone remembers, but I was actually watching my review back of this, but Chris Tales did a very similar thing, which I liked, where if you attack at the right time, you get more damage. If you defend at the right time, you get less damage. I always like that little bit of interactivity because it means I don't completely not dissociate, but completely just go elsewhere for turns. Because you could do that even in Baldur's Gate 3, which I think is a 10 out of 10 game. There are times where you can just kind of kick back and be like, all right, whatever, and usually you have like automated stuff to tell you if you can do a reaction. But yeah, continue.
And even in Chris Tales, right? That's a good example. I mean, I never played Chris Tales other than the demo. But what I remember being a kind of criticism I had of Chris Tales was it felt the combat felt a little flat to me. Like there wasn't a ton of feedback to it, and that's something that Sea of Stars I think does really well. Even to the point where there's actually if you go into the difficulty settings, because it has kind of a modular difficulty settings suite like Celeste or something like that, which is really clever.
Or the more recent, they basically copied the more recent Square Enix games, like Final Fantasy or the one that came out, the one with the fucking dragon. What was that one called, Seb? Forspoken. Thank you, James. So like Forspoken, they have these little amulets that you can use. I basically given myself like a 3-death rule. If something's really kicking my ass, I'll do the Amulet of Storytelling, which is basically 100% health and your party heals after every fight. It's really great, and I love that kind of modular challenge level because that means everybody can choose the same game to start, and then you just accessorize as necessary. And there are other amulets you get throughout the game. Most of them are not super expensive. There's one actually late game, maybe not late game, but like at least halfway through the game. That's quite expensive. But for the most part, most of the amulets are not expensive.
Yeah, there's a lot of games actually doing that kind of system this year. It seems like it's becoming a much more popular thing because Final Fantasy 16 kind of has a system like that as well. So it's kind of it seems to be becoming a more popular way of doing difficulty, and I like that quite a lot. And yeah, it's like I was saying, there was one of the settings that you can change is not necessarily about difficulty or making the game easier, but it's more about kind of adapting to how you want the game to feel, because there's a setting you can change where you can make the game do an additional effect when you land a successful extra attack.
Yep.
Yeah, I've got that on as well. Just to let you make sure that you know that you were successful in landing that attack. Which is really cool. So it's very good in the kind of difficulty settings.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I really am enjoying. It always feels like the game is on the brink of being a little too hard or a little too complicated, and then you'll get a campfire area where you can rest and you can save. It's like it feels so well balanced. Like the fights are difficult, but they're never like crushing. They never feel unfair. There are times where they have bosses and non-bosses are able to heal themselves / their allies. I'm going to rant for a second. Seb gets his rant this episode. I get my rant this episode too. I hate that so much. It does not, for me, allowing your bosses / even non-bosses. That's wild. Like bosses are one thing, but non-boss enemies should not be able to heal themselves, in my opinion. Point blank. But for me, it does not make an encounter more interesting. It makes it longer, more difficult, more complicated. When you win, it feels more like a case of, oh, I got lucky and I was able to attack at the right time than, oh, I had a brilliant strategy or I did exactly what the game wanted. I've always hated that. It doesn't matter what game it is. Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep has it. Hate it. Dream Drop Distance has it. Hate it. I always hate it. It also takes something special away from the player because it makes you feel like, oh, well, my abilities aren't even necessarily that cool. Like everybody can fucking heal themselves. So I will never stop hating this. It's up there with durability on inventory for me. Although I think bosses healing themselves are worse. Yeah, I don't know if y'all have any feelings on that, but that's one of my pet peeves in RPGs. I really wish RPGs would stop that because I had a boss fight early in the game. I think maybe Seb's already done it, but the boss just kept healing himself over and over and over again. And like, I don't mind if it's like parts of their body they heal. That's not as bad. But Chris Tales, going back to Chris Tales, they did that too. There was a boss that would heal himself, and it was so monotonous. It took like 20 or 30 minutes to beat him when it just shouldn't have been that complicated. And like, I like a good long epic fight. Don't get me wrong. I love RPGs. Hello. But like, there's a point where it's like, okay, this is just accentuated for the sake of being accentuated. This is like, you're adding extra layers that don't need to be there, in my opinion. So I know that's like a, that's a whole thing for me, but I hate it when enemies can heal themselves, especially non-bosses. That just shouldn't be a thing, because it really just makes your own healing feel kind of inconsequential. The only thing I'll say, and this is the last thing I'll say about this rant, is they do make it somewhat easy for you to cancel out the healing that bosses and non-boss enemies try to do, because in this game, they have these things called locks, and basically, if you match up certain symbols, you basically like break the lock, and you get a big combo meter increase, and also which allows you to perform like combo moves, so it rewards you, and then you also do good damage. Usually, it's what they're also vulnerable to, so you do more damage as well. So the game rewards you for paying attention, which I think is great. And usually, if enemies are going to heal themselves or heal their allies, the game does a good job of showing you. Sometimes the enemies are a little close together, so it's difficult to tell which locks apply to which enemy, just because the UI is a little on that front. But yeah, that's one of my little nitpicks. I haven't seen enemies heal themselves in quite a while, and I'm hoping it doesn't come back. But that's my little pet peeve. That's my rant.
I don't think that's really an issue for me, just because I guess that's just pretty standard RPG stuff. But I understand the frustration with that. Well, a nitpick for me is it's not like I said, it's not a major thing, but there's a lot of grammar mistakes. You can tell they're not English speakers that made this game. I think they're in Quebec. So but that's like, that doesn't really bother me, but something I noticed. Also, did you guys played The Messenger? I don't know if you mentioned that yet.
Yeah. I adore
Oh
it.
yeah, this is like
It's in the same
prequel
universe
to The Messenger, right? Yeah, same universe.
Yeah, it takes place 1,000 years, I believe, before The Messenger. So that's kind of cool.
I didn't actually know that.
Yeah, kind of random too.
One thing I was going to mention though on that actually is I played The Messenger in 2018 when it came out. Loved it.
Mm-hmm.
One thing, and I kind of knew this was the case before playing the game, but I'm just a tiny bit, and just a very tiny bit, mind you, disappointed that this game isn't as funny as The Messenger, because The Messenger was hilarious. It was written with comedy in mind every step of the way. This game is not that. This game is very serious about itself, which is absolutely fine because it works. You know, the tone works and everything is great. But yeah, just a tiny bit disappointed about that, just because I love that aspect of the Messenger so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. But for me, well, the gameplay is good. I really like the gameplay. I mean, I like turn-based RPGs. But the timing of the blocking and the hitting is I just can't nail it like 100% of the time. I don't think they expect you to. I mean, they pretty much tell you.
They literally say. Yeah, they literally say that it's a good thing to do, but we don't expect you to do it 100%.
But it's so accessible in the fact that like there's always a campfire or a save point, like every 5 minutes. It feels like, at least where I'm at. Like it always felt like I was right there at a rest point, and it was easy to grind and stuff. So, I mean, I didn't find this game difficult so far. I feel like I've always been, like I said, I can always rest like instantly, so I can just like kill a couple enemies, go back, heal, and go back.
Yep.
But I'm also a veteran with this genre, I guess. So, because I've always been buying like a new weapon. Every time I see a merchant, I immediately buy a new weapon, and so I'm always keeping up with it. But I really like the art style. I really like the music. I think it's a really cool game. I love that it's very successful game. I love that even though it's on Game Pass and PS Plus at the same time, day one, that it's still like one of the most popular Steam games right now.
Yeah, like 100,000 units sold or something on the first day, or something like that.
It's amazing. First week. So
yeah, it's awesome. I did want to shout out one. I totally agree with Seb. This is a pretty accessible game. As somebody who doesn't play as many turn-based RPGs as Seb does, I feel like this game is usually very, very well balanced. I've only died maybe a handful of times over 15 hours. Maybe I'd probably even less than that. And that really speaks to like how well balanced this game system is, the combat system specifically. I think the characterizations are great. The characters who I've known enough over the past 15 hours, I've really grown attached to. Another thing I'll say about the game's combat system that rules, there's just no punishment for swapping into different characters in your party. I know y'all are both a little early, but I will let you know that like if you want to swap one of your characters into a different character, there's no penalty at all. You can only have 3. That kind of stinks, but there's only 6 max that'll be in your party. So they're kind of trying to do the whole half thing that our RPGs do. I don't know what it's called, but it's something that RPGs love doing. They only love giving you half as many party members as you can actually have. But yeah, it's pretty well balanced. Most of the party members, I would say, feel useful. That's because lots of different monsters have different weaknesses or vulnerabilities or lock mechanisms. And so everybody feels useful to some extent. I mean, some are definitely more useful than others, for sure. But yeah, I don't know. This is a really great game. I'm probably got another about 10 hours left in it. There's some collectibles and stuff, but it's mostly optional. There's a cool, later in the game, there's a neat way of kind of having your own town and also like a special thanks section that I've never seen done in another game before. Thought that was neat. And yeah, I could tell from the special thanks thing that the people who made the game are not from America, just because of a lot of the names and stuff like that. But Seb's also an English teacher, so you know it's going to stand out to him.
Yeah, I think Jason Schreier even made a big tweet about that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a great game. I recommend it. Even as somebody who's not typically into turn-based RPGs, I'm having a good time. I definitely foresee myself finishing it up within the next few days before it's revealed.
I have one.
Go.
Oh, sorry, Seb. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, are you gonna play Starfield now?
Yeah, I mean it's on Game Pass. It got all between 7s and 10s. I don't want to derail from Sea of Stars, but I at least want to try it out and give it a shot. I was always like probably gonna give it a shot. September. I know this isn't the case for a lot of people, but September is kind of a slow month for me. I mean, I've got stuff that I'm eyeing, but nothing I'm like must buy. You know. So I'll definitely pick it up. I mean, not pick it up. I have it on Game Pass already. It's pre-installed. But yeah, James, what were you gonna say?
The one last thing I wanted to talk about with the game, that stood out to me in the first 2.5 hours. One thing that I do not like in games in general is when, well, fishing mini games are all kind of generic and the same in a lot of games, right? Like you throw your line into the water, you wait for a fish, and then you kind of try and reel it in without snapping the line and stuff. There's a fishing mini game in Sea of Stars, and it's the most interesting fishing game I think I've ever played. Probably the best fishing game I've ever played in a game, because it does everything so differently to other fishing mini games in other games, and it just makes the whole experience more fun. Like, you don't have to wait for fish to catch on the line; they just do it instantly, and all you have to do is kind of reel it in and make sure you stay in this kind of line that moves around the screen. And it's really simple, really easy, and it's really fun.
Yeah, there's definitely a fish every now and then who, like, right out the gate is pulling, like, really hard right to the left, and you've got to be ready. But for the even 15 hours in, I would say the fishing game is pretty accessible and a great way to stack up food. There's no shortage of food or resources in the game. Another way in which the game is very accessible. I've never run out of food. There's a whole cooking stuff where you can boost MP or HP or revive a fallen ally at 50% health, and there's other stuff besides. There's some foods that heal your whole party and some that just do individuals. You can do that in combat or out combat. You can also do spells outside of combat. The game doesn't tell you, but you can. If you have enough MP, you can use like healing spells and stuff like that outside of combat and heal your party.
Yeah, I was doing that a lot. I was doing that a lot.
Yeah, probably a pretty basic thing. But yeah, I mean, I will say, I'm not going to get into any spoilers, but last thing I'll say about Sea of Stars, I think the story has been fairly compelling. There's been some twists here and there. You know, it's a typical epic RPG. There's going to be twists and stuff like that. I won't go into any specifics or anything, but, you know, it doesn't... It goes kind of the route you expect, but in a slightly different way, which I think speaks to, like, Sea of Stars' commitment to being like those retro games. I mean, the composer, I meant to say this earlier, is literally the guy who did a lot of the Xenogears or Xenoblade, I'm not sure which, but and also did Chrono Trigger soundtrack. So they literally have like RPG royalty in terms of the soundtrack. That's why it's so good. And some of the tracks, I do want to say, are excellent. I'm like, at this point, I'm 15 hours in and I'm still like humming the battle theme. It's really good. I wish they had, like, they do have a couple remixes for the battle theme, but it does get a little stale. But you know, battles are usually just a few minutes, so it's not a huge deal. Yeah, I would say most of my issues with the game are like minor criticisms. You know, it go like nitpicks, minor criticisms, problems, whatever. And like, yeah, most of my issues are minor criticisms or just me not like being a big turn-based RPG person. I don't think this will be in my top 10 at the end of the year, but that just speaks to how stacked the year is. This is a really great game. Super recommended. Even if you don't like turn-based RPGs, I would recommend giving this a try. It's on Game Pass, so you really don't have a lot to lose. $10 for this game, even if that's all you play in a month, is a flippin' steal. It's a great game.
Yeah, do you guys think this game is going to be the indie game that gets nominated for Game of the Year? Because there's always that one indie game that gets in that category.
I think so. Just
soundtrack?
Because no, for Game of the Year.
No, Game of the Year, like the top 6.
Oh, like Game of the Year for indie. Yeah, maybe.
Just because I can't think of another indie game that is this high profile that's coming out this year.
That's what I'm saying. And it's like a 93 or 91 or something on Metacritic, so
something in
it's
that,
like in the
in
90s, I believe. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's a really good game so far. I do plan on beating it. It's kind of it's one of those games I'm gonna have to play for a little while just because Starfield's like right around the corner. I mean, people are already playing Starfield. Like it came out technically yesterday via early access, but this is stuff that I'll probably have it beat by the end of the month, hopefully. But we'll see. It doesn't seem like it's that long. 25 hours is pretty.
Yeah, 25 hours, and even if you're a completionist, it's like 30 or 40. It's not that long.
And relatively. And you know me, I have a knack for beating games fast, so
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is one of those games too.
Mhm.
Sorry, last thing. I swear.
Yeah.
This is one of those things. The games too. I could have played Baldur's Gate forever, but that was a system I was very familiar with from the get go,
Yeah.
and something I felt very engaged with. This is a game where it's like I play a few hours and I'm like, all right, like I need to go do something else. I've had that happen multiple times where I'll take a break from the game and I'll go watch TV or I'll go do something else for a few hours. This because the game really makes you think. There's a lot of combat, and when there's not combat, there's puzzles. So
Yeah.
you're pretty much always on your toes trying to think, and it can wear you out. But I recommend doing this in 3-4 hour stints and not marathoning it, just from my perspective.
Yeah. James, do you have anything more to add before we move on?
No.
No. All right. Well, I actually bought Sea of Stars on Steam, and I bought Starfield on Steam as well because I like owning my games more so than like renting them with Game Pass. So that's just my thing. Also, the fact that I like the idea of Sea of Stars, like playing on my Rogue Ally. It feels like a perfect handheld game. So
Absolutely. That's why I got it on Switch.
Definitely, and because one of the reasons why I bought these games on Steam Deck, not Steam Deck, on the Steam, is because PS Plus is pissing me off because I am not paying $80 a year to have online and to have cloud saves. They can kiss my ass. Like there's absolutely no way. Like to me, as a big PlayStation fan, somebody that has a lot of trophies and stuff, I was already transitioning to PC. You know, I just bought a 4080 PC like a couple months ago, and I was gearing up for Starfield and stuff. And I feel like might be the final straw for me, as PlayStation is my primary platform, because I'm so tired of like being nickel and dimed for everything. I'm getting tired of Jim Ryan's like just like anti-consumer decisions. I can't even believe that I would have to pay $80 a month just to play online. Like it's so ridiculous to me. And having those like three games a month are not worth it. I mean, now not only did they announce this like as a side note on the article on the bottom, they announced it like in the same month we're getting like Saints Row as the premiere game of the month. Like it's just like it's a whole thing's a big middle finger to everybody. It's just like I would be more on board with it if it was like, oh, you get more VR games, you get more PS5 games, we get more streaming. Oh, we're getting more PS2 or PS3 emulation or something like, you know what I mean? If there's more incentive, then okay, I can live with that, right? But they didn't even announce anything with it. Like I can see in the future. Oh, okay. I feel like yeah, they probably do have plans to do more stuff. But like, how do you make that announcement and then like don't even like try to like do any PR? You just let everybody just get pissed off and then just stay radio silent. And that's been my biggest problem with PlayStation since the PS5 era, since Jim took over, is that they get radio silent and they just let shit linger, and they do all these anti-consumer things all the time. Like, I mean, they do the PS5 $50 more around the world. The PS Plus is more expensive. That new handheld device is like $200 and it just streams. It's just like the VR was 700 like what, 750, and then they haven't really supported it. It's just like, and there's only like what, a couple of big games this year. It was like Spider-Man, and that's pretty much it. Like it's just, and all like in the future is just a bunch of multiplayer service games. Like maybe they'd be good, but it's just like, it's just frustrating. Like we don't get the PlayStation Showcase anymore. We don't get like any accessibility in terms of like, there's no fan support anymore. Like I feel like one thing of the cool things about Xbox nowadays is like they just like support the community more. Like it always feels like you're part of like a community with Xbox and like Microsoft, and feels more open, and everything with Sony is just so corporate. And even though the games are still good and I've been happy with my PS5, don't get me wrong, it's just like I'm just worried in the long term. It's feeling like PS3 Sony again, and I'm not saying Xbox is amazing, because I'm not Team Xbox either, because obviously I just said I'm going to be on Steam and stuff, but it's just like I'm just so frustrated with Sony and the direction they're going in, and I'll still use my PS5 for exclusives, and like I'm still excited for Spider-Man and stuff, but I think I'm done as PlayStation as my primary platform. I think now, even though my PC was expensive up front, in the long term, I think it's going to be cheaper for me to play PC games. So What do you guys think about this price increase?
I think I think it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Because I think okay, and not to fuel any kind of console wars rubbish, because that's all stupid.
Yeah.
But comparatively, Xbox Game Pass is getting, or has already gotten, a price increase recently.
And it will again at some point too.
Right, and it will. But the thing with that is, that feels justified. Like, it feels like you're still getting your money's worth with all the content on Game Pass and everything like that. With this, it really feels like there's nothing to soften the blow. It just feels like the service was already on the edge of not being worth the money, and now it just feels like they're just saying, okay, you know, we know you're not. What are you gonna do? Run to Xbox? You're on the PlayStation ecosystem. Just give us more of your money, because Jim Ryan needs a new swimming pool. You know, it's a bit ridiculous, and it really feels like, based on the reaction to this specific thing, because everywhere you look, people are pissed off about this. It feels like it's starting to feel like it's going to be death by 1,000 cuts for PlayStation. If this kind of trend continues, you know, it feels like they're not going to be the top dog anymore, and it's going to be because of all these tiny little decisions that kind of just make people lose trust in the brand, you know?
No, definitely. Like, even the fact that, like, a lot of their games are coming to PC at some point, it feels like it's better. Now it feels like I'm getting to the point where maybe I should just wait. I'm just, like, so frustrated with the whole brand. Like let's think about, like, 2018, right? Like, 2019, all those, like, this is, like, when we're getting, like, God of War, but even before that, like, 2016, E3, big orchestra. They did all the set pieces. They built all the hype. Like, Spider-Man, they showed Spider-Man. Everybody was going insane. It's just, where is that experience? Like, I don't understand why they got away from that. Like, that's when PlayStation was, like, just destroying it. And I know PS5 is breaking record sales and it's outpacing the PS4 and everything. And that might be the problem, is that, like, if they're just too, like, they have no competition right now in their console space. Switch is not, like, I know people say Switch is their competition, but it's not. I mean, it's a hybrid console. Xbox is just not selling well. It's their Game Pass numbers are kind of stagnant right now. It's not going way up or anything. So PlayStation's in a class of its own right now, and that's kind of the problem. Is just like Sony can just nickel and dime everybody, and everybody just kind of has to accept it. So I'm hoping this is like the camel that this is like the moment that, like, breaks the camel's back. You know what I mean? It's just like, whatever the expression is, that people get tired of Sony. Like, I'm not paying $80 a month for Plus. Like, because the majority of people that play on PlayStation, right, play it for, like, Fortnite and Call of Duty and all that. Now you gotta pay $80 a year to play those games with your friends. So it's gonna be I don't understand this. It just doesn't make a logical sense to me. It doesn't make a monetary sense at all. Like, there's just no reason for it. And not only that, like, because we're only talking about the essential one, right? I haven't even hit on the higher tiers. Like, I'm a premium user. I have premium until March of next year, and it's going up $40. Like, it's $120 a year now, and by September 6th, it's going to be $160. So it went up a whole $40. Like, Game Pass went up a little bit, but we're talking a couple of dollars. This went up full on $40 on premium, and premium's already a mess. I mean, I think Extra, the second one, has been really good. Like, ever since they made the change, there's been a lot of games. You got Stray day one, you got Sea of Stars day one. I've been playing all the PS1 classics as well with premium, but the problem is they could have way more premium, like way more PS1 games, more PS2 games, and they're just not updating it that much. It's just disappointing. So half the games don't even have trophy support. It's just like, and the trials are like, you only get like 2 hours out of them, so it's a cool concept, but it's just like, it's not that amazing. It's not worth $160 a year. Like, who's gonna pay $160 a year for a mediocre service? And that's that's even for the hardcore gamers. $160 a year is asking too much. Like, 120, yeah. I could have lived. I was like, okay, I'll because normally I get it on sale. Like, you know, the PlayStation has their like June sale, and you'll get like PS Plus for like $30 off or something. That's okay, but 160. That's like I can't even justify that. That's almost for like 150 more or 140 more. You can get a Switch. Like you can get like a Steam Deck. So it's just like I don't understand the decisions here. Like if they do give us an incentive, like there's more games. Like let's say if they put Spider-Man 2. They're not gonna do this, but let's say they did Spider-Man 2 on the service day one. If you have premium for 100, like okay, I would be okay with that because then I'm saving more money in the long run, right? Because I don't have to spend $70 on a game. But they're not gonna do that, and that's the problem. Like you know what they're gonna do? They're just gonna keep it how they might throw a couple extra maybe PS5 games like third party something or. But I don't nothing that justifies $160 a year. I'm sorry. It's just there's just nothing. It just doesn't. It just defies all logic. And I don't understand from an optics point of view, a monetary point of view. It's just stupid. Like I don't know what's in their mindset. I really don't. I know and especially when inflation is up and people are struggling economically and like people can't afford to pay $160 a year for a stupid video game service. I'm sorry. It's like. It just makes no sense to me. I know everybody's going up in price, but Netflix went up a couple dollars. Disney, Max, all that. We're talking like $3, $4, $5, $6. People were pissed about that, right? Not freaking $20 more. Like I whatever.
I think I'm going to cancel my subscription.
I already did for me personally.
Yeah. So yeah, no, it's not. Do you think? And by the way, guys, for both of you, because I know Dory had the same thing earlier. The expression is the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah, that was it.
But do you think that based on the feedback and the criticism, the sheer criticism of this decision, do you think they'll walk this back? Do you think they'll say, hey, we're not going to put it up to 160. We'll just put it up to like 130.
I'm not gonna say it's impossible. But I lean on no, because Sony just there's nothing to stop them from doing this. Like it would because it felt like, well, we'll see because the change is happening like in 4 days, right? So, but the problem is a lot of people already subscribed to Plus for a year, so people are probably not going to feel the change until another like 6-7 months. So, if they do change it, it might be like a long time from now. So it's possible, but I lean on no because they're the big dog on top. There's just nothing competing with them. Like they're in the console space, they're just on their own level, and that's the problem with having no competition. I mean, Game Pass is cool, and Xbox is doing a great job. Don't get me wrong, but Game Pass is still not like it doesn't have 100 million subscribers. It's not the numbers have been stagnant. They don't even brag about the numbers, and if it had 100 million subscribers, they'd be bragging left and right. So they're streaming's in a bad spot right now. Like people are getting tired of the services and the nickel and diming, and everybody increasing the prices, and people feel like it's not just because people feel like they're spending more money on all the services than cable now. So it's just people are just getting tired of streaming. So
streaming in general is getting a bad rap at the moment, especially with. Shows now getting canned before, after they're completed, before they're allowed to premiere. Yeah. So stuff like that. Like people do not like streaming at the moment.
It's true. I mean, look, ironically, or at the same time, I think movies in the movie theater are making a comeback. Like they're making billions of dollars now. Like Barbie just hit $1 billion and stuff. So, like it feels like COVID time, right? Like we're shifting more to streaming. And movie theater is not going to be as big as it used to be. Like maybe I feel like Endgame was the finale as the big blockbuster, and then that was it. But it seems like we've shifted back to traditional, where the movies make a lot of money, and streaming's like a cool for like shows and stuff. But it's not like the premier way of entertainment. And I think the same thing with games, right? It's just you're renting the game and. You have the game, and then eventually they take it off the service or whatever, and it's like people just get upset with that, and that's why I like to purchase. I like to purchase my games. I just like having, even though I don't technically own it because it's digital, it's still like the chances of Valve going out of business is like slim to none, or PlayStation going out of business is slim to none. So,
I haven't I haven't said too much because honestly, I'm not super invested in this. Not to say y'all's feelings aren't valid or real or whatever. Obviously,
Yeah.
I'm number one corporation hater on this podcast, and I will always proudly claim that mantle. But yeah, I mean, I get it. It sucks, and like I never invested in the ecosystem to begin with. You know, I'm with Game Pass, and it's not an Xbox versus PlayStation thing, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
But I think Game Pass was just one of the best things out there in terms of a service. I would never have bought Sea of Stars, going back to our earlier topic. If it was Game, I would never have given it a shot ever. But I saw it on Game Pass. I'm like, well, $10 a month, that's nothing.
Yeah.
But just 160 for a year. I already thought when Seb was telling me the earlier stuff, it's exactly, I think, what James said earlier, or maybe Seb said this too. But I was on the fence. I was like, maybe this is worth it, but I'm not sure. And I was like, I'll wait for later, and maybe the price will drop or the price will change. Well, the price did change. It went up.
I'm pretty sure Extra, which was $100 a year, is cheaper than Game Pass for a year. Like, yeah. I feel like it was cheaper. And Extra actually was doing really good. Like, it had a lot of momentum. Yeah. Every month it had a lot of good games. Ever since they changed it's the premium one that like was lacking. Like, these trials were just not worth it.
Yeah.
PS1, there should have been more old games, and they were just not updating it enough. And so Extra itself, which was $80, not even $100, was doing well, and then they just killed that service, making it $120 now.
Yeah, and I definitely consider
it's $135. Extra. It actually went up $35.
Jeez. I actually was considering Extra. I mean, Seb almost sold me on it a couple times. I love PlayStation. It's one of my primary consoles, and I've been playing PlayStation for since the PS1. So I've been there since the beginning. I'm old. Anyway, you know, big lover and supporter of PlayStation stuff generally, but this is just I don't need to say much because this speaks for itself. It's crap.
Yeah, it frustrates me the most because I have a premium account. Like I am their hardcore audience. I'm somebody that was like, oh, that handheld they were doing, not handheld, but the streaming thing they're doing. I forget what it's called, the Portal, I think it is. I'll be like, oh, if the streaming is better, maybe I should. I was thinking about it, but then it's like, you're just giving me a middle finger as a hardcore like PlayStation fan. Like, I'm the audience you're trying to sell on, and you're just screwing me over for absolutely no reason. You're giving me no incentive to keep the subscription. Like, you're not, like you said, give me more stuff, and I'll be fine with it. But you're not. You just said as a side note in our article that had nothing to do. It was just like, here's Saints Row. Oh, by the way, guys, we're increasing the prices by $40. It's like, how out of touch can you be? And it's just like, as a hardcore, I mean, it makes me sound like I'm a fanboy, but I'm not. Like, I play every platform, but PlayStation is my primary platform, or it was, and it's like, I was the premium. I platinumed all the Siphon Filter games. I played Resident Evil 1. I played Ape Escape and all those like old PS1 games on the PS Plus service. I just platinumed the Medieval game that they had on Plus Extra, and it's like, they just killed it. They killed all the momentum of the service. Like, people are always going to associate this service now with the price increase. It's like, it already had a bad marketing, bad name brand. Like, Game Pass is just too overwhelming right now. And now, especially when people think of Plus, they're just going to think of the service that's like $40 more money now. It's just ridiculous. So
yeah. Not a good look at all. And especially, like you said, during the economic times that we're in right now, I mean, you know, people say we're post-COVID or whatever, but, you know, it's still possible to get COVID and to deal with those complications, and plenty of people working from home or dealing with less income and stuff. It's just incredibly insensitive in that way as well. And yeah, I just think all around this is a terrible move from Sony.
Yeah. I think we can move on now. I think we've
we could probably move on.
Yeah. I don't have any more to say. Hopefully they reverse it.
Hey, speaking of streaming and TV shows,
well, ironically,
we got lots of those to talk about.
Ironically, we went on a rant about streaming, but all the shows we're going to mention are on streaming services.
Hey, it doesn't mean that streaming isn't doing anything good. It just means times are tough for a streaming service. I mean, you look at HBO Max and how bad that app has gotten with Zaslav at the top. It is bafflingly bad. I mean, even when at this point, AEW, wrestling promotion I watch, they become part of HBO Max. I'll still buy it, but man, I don't really like supporting HBO at this point, or the Zaslav or whatever, because it's just They're cutting shows left and right. The whole Batgirl thing left a bad taste in my mouth. They like got rid of the Venture Brothers TV show right before the movie debuted on their app service. Like, that doesn't even make any sense. So anyway, streaming's a mess right now.
There's a lot of reasons to dislike streaming service. Not to go on a tangent, but you know, what with all the strikes and everything, and like,
that too,
the way that those companies are handling all that, like, there's a lot of reason to hate those services,
especially Disney, because even though like we're gonna talk about Ahsoka and the new Star Wars show, like Disney's just not paying people, and now Disney's like struggling financially. People are talking about Apple purchasing them and all that stuff. It's like Disney's not doing well. Disney Plus. My problem with Disney Plus, before I get into Ahsoka, is the fact that like I have nothing to watch on there. Like, they have Marvel shows and Disney, and then Star Wars shows, and then what else am I supposed to watch? Old Disney movies from 70 years ago? I mean, I love Disney, don't get me wrong, but I don't want to watch it like a Huckleberry Finn from the 1950s. Like, I watched those movies when I was little, like when there was like the Disney Channel was like old school, like before it became like Hannah Montana, Jonah Brother, corporate. They used to play all the old like 60s movies by like Kurt Russell when he was young and stuff. And it's like, outside Star Wars and Marvel, like what am I supposed to watch? And even the Marvel shows are lacking now. Like they're just not as on par anymore. I thought like the Falcon show, I thought WandaVision was interesting, and then Secret Invasion was just like a big step down. And it just doesn't keep me. I don't watch Disney Plus anymore, really. Like,
you know, I actually just started watching this little indie movie called Old Yeller. Don't tell me how it ends. I think it's going to turn out really well, though, for everybody involved. So I think that's going to be great.
When I was in school, they made us listen to the audio for the whole book. And,
what?
And yeah, in 7th grade.
That's fucked up.
7th grade.
Oh my! In 7th grade. My God.
Yeah. Anyway, but I will say this though. I feel like I've been happy mostly with the Star Wars shows on Disney Plus. I feel like the quality's been pretty good. I mean, Obi-Wan and Boba Fett were kind of disappointing, but I didn't think they were bad. I just thought like they were okay. Like they weren't like amazing by any stretch of the imagination. But the Ahsoka show though was actually very good. In fact, I would say it's probably the 3rd best Disney Plus Star Wars show after Andor and Mandalorian season 1.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, really good, but it's not for the newcomer. It's not for a casual Star Wars fan, because this is very much so the Rebels season 5. It's a full-on sequel to Rebels. I mean, literally, it's season 5 of Rebels. Like it's just live action. All the characters are from Rebels. Ezra, Hera, Chopper, Ahsoka, Sabine. Those are all like iconic characters, but all those characters that I said, if they're iconic if you know the show, like in the Filoni-verse. If you don't know the Filoni-verse, every character I just mentioned is gonna go way over your head. And so this show is not for you if you don't know Star Wars, don't like Star Wars, never watch Rebels, because it is like, it just assumes that you know this. Don't get me wrong, it's still easy to follow. It's a straightforward show. They're trying to find Admiral Thrawn. At the end of Rebels, Ezra uses the whales to jump into hyperspace, and that's how he captures Thrawn and sends him like way out far in the galaxy. Because Thrawn is like, he's not a Sith or anything, but he's like a very smart, strategic commander, and if he ever came back, he can like bring back the entire Empire. Which kind of ruins it, because the First Order happens in the sequel movies, so it's kind of like they do come back, so kind of loses its edge, you know. But they're trying to. So there's 2 Jedi's, like these evil Jedi. They don't call themselves Sith, but they're like, but they're really cool looking. In fact, the first scene in the whole show, they like hijack, they kill everybody on the ship, and just like it's kind of like Rogue One.
New Hope.
Like when Vader just like slaughters the entire ship. So
that scene is so good. God, that's one of my favorite like new scenes from Star Wars. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah, and then that sets the tone for the show. And Ahsoka is amazing as usual. I mean, Ahsoka is such an awesome character. Like, she's one of the most popular Star Wars characters now. Like, people hated her when she got introduced, but now she's iconic. And she's absolutely fantastic in the show. Now, if you guys don't know Sabine. Sabine is a Mandalorian. She's on Rebels. She had the Darksaber. You remember Darksaber from Mandalorian?
Yep.
Whoever has the Darksaber is considered the king or queen of Mandalore, and she trained with the sword before Mandalorian happened. And so she's training to be a Jedi right now. I don't know if she's a Force user. It doesn't. It's kind of ambiguous if she has Force sensitive or not. I don't think so. But she's training to be. She's Ahsoka's Padawan, basically. She calls her master and stuff. But she's not really a Jedi. She's more like she's a Mandalorian. So she's a big character in the show as well, because they're both trying to find Ezra. Ezra was like a teenager Jedi under Kanan. Kanan was played by Freddie Prinze Jr. I'll hit on the spoilers. I don't know if you guys are ever going to watch Rebels. Do you want me to?
I'm probably not going to.
Yeah, well, if you like the Clone Wars show, right? Like, Clone Wars is an amazing show. Rebels is a sequel to that. Yeah. Like, it's a direct sequel. It's the same universe, Filoniverse. And Kanan is a Jedi. His master gets shot down. He goes into hiding. It's kind of like what the Jedi Fallen Order games. And Kanan trains he meets a small teenager who becomes a Jedi as well. Basically, Kanan marries Hera, which is she's in all the games and stuff. Like she's a big character. She comes up in a lot of games, movies, shows. She's like a big pilot. And Kanan dies later on in the show, like one of the best deaths ever in Star Wars. Very awesome death. And he has a son with her, and he has he's like a half hybrid Twi'lek, and Twi'lek's the people with the long tentacles on the back. You know what I'm talking about, Dory? Or
the guy with the tentacles.
Like the people that always have the long tentacles in the back, like
What, like Ahsoka?
Oh yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah. The green guy.
Yeah, that's what Hera is. So
yeah.
So Jason Syndulla is I think he's gonna be a big character in the future, because he's a hybrid of Kanan and Hera's son, and we actually got to see him in live action, which was very emotional because Kanan is like one of the most popular characters in Star Wars, and he had a heroic death as a Jedi, and so this character is gonna be Jason has the potential of being a great pilot and a great Jedi. So it's exciting. I'm hoping in the future that if they do find Ezra, who I'm excited to see in live action, gets to train him, and that could connect to the Rey show with the Jedi, because they're doing a show with Rey training Jedi. So maybe we can do that in the future. Yeah. I don't know, but either way, I know I'm going on a big rant about not rant, but
yeah, it's fine.
All the story stuff. But point is, it's a really good show. The character's really interesting. The story's really good. It's not for newcomers in the fact that there's so many references and connections to the original shows, but it's straightforward enough where you can follow it. I recommend it. It's probably one of the most cool Star Wars show I've seen in a long time. I know Andor was more political. It was in the politics. Everything was focused on espionage and all that stuff.
Yeah.
This feels more like Star Wars. This reminds me of the expanded universe from the 90s, where remember that what's his name, Kyle Katarn? Do you remember that, Dory?
Yes. Yep. I have all the games on Steam, so yeah.
Yeah. So this show reminds me of this feels like real expanded universe. This feels like post Jedi, Return of the Jedi, more than the sequel trilogy.
Nice.
Because the sequel trilogy never felt like that to me. It always felt like its own little tangent. And this one feels like a legitimate continuation of post Return of the Jedi, where the Empire is still kind of scattered, and the Republic's still kind of shitty. I mean, they're government shitty, so
what a shocker!
It's way more interesting because one of my biggest problems with the Force Awakens is they kind of just kill off the government in the right off the bat. They just blow them all up with a laser beam, and we never get any focus on how the Republic still works, what is going on. The First Order just is already there, right? The very first scene we get what's his name, Kylo Ren, in the very first scene, everything it's just it jumps to a head and we don't know what's going on. It's just
right.
But anyway, this feels like legitimate expanded universe, so it's a really good show. Yeah. But it's for hardcore Star Wars fans.
Yeah, I haven't seen Rebels, and I can't say I'm planning to.
It's really good though.
Yeah, and I believe you. Yeah. I love Clone Wars. Kim and I watched the whole 7 seasons or whatever it was together and loved the show. there's definitely some weak episodes, especially with the droids and stuff like that. But
Rebels the same way.
yeah. Well, Filoni thinks that Star Wars has to appeal to everyone, which I appreciate and respect.
Too much filler.
But there is some, yes, and that makes filler sometimes, especially like Jar Jar Binks and stuff like that. It's like stuff I just don't want on my screen. All respect to the actor, of course, who did not deserve all the hate he got. But anyway, yeah, I mean, I love Ahsoka. Ahsoka's one of the best characters. She's everyone's favorite female character to talk about when they don't want to be accused as being a sexist. So that's fun.
That's true.
Remember when that happened? That was fun. Love the Star Wars fandom so much.
And they hated her.
But anyway,
and they really, really hated her. Like when she got introduced in the Clone Wars movie.
Yeah. Of course they did. But she's awesome, and she's legitimately a great character. I think Rey is too. But anyway, you know, the reason I'm not watching this is I'm just kind of zoned out from Star Wars. It exists, and I'm excited for Andor season 2, and I'm like, whatever about the next season of Mando. I love Mando, but the last season was great, but it just kind of came and went. You know, you didn't see a lot. I feel like you didn't see a lot of people talking about it. Maybe I'm super wrong about that.
Andor?
But it felt like it didn't. No, not Andor. Andor was sensational. I mean Mando. The last season of Mando felt a bit off.
Yeah, it wasn't as good as the first season.
Yeah,
or even the second.
I'm not
season.
saying it was bad, by the way. This is all, you know.
Yeah,
I still had a great.
I'm saying it was bad.
Okay, all right. James is saying resident Star Wars not enjoyer is saying it was bad.
I think it was pretty good. It just wasn't.
To be fair,
as good.
I like the first 2 seasons of Mandalorian.
Yeah. Oh, they're good. I think they're great. Lovely space westerns with. Honestly, you can jump in with almost any episode and know what's going on.
Even though Ahsoka is an example of it, I don't like the fact that like Mandalorian became like connecting. They made it like a connection to all like they used the show to set up like 100 things. Like I don't like that. Like I don't like when Marvel does it. Like I like that when Mandalorian was doing his own thing.
This is like the bigger problem with me. This is why I don't really want to see it. So I also have like, I don't know, this is like more personal, but like I'm not. There's like some stuff about Rosario Dawson in particular, about her as a person, and like I'm not sure if it's true or not, and like the case got dropped and whatever, but it's stuff about like trans people, and like it just kind of sucked to read, and it like just made me disinterested in her as an actress. You know, she's never been formally indicted on anything, and this is not obviously an allegation of anything for legal purposes. But just reporting the facts. You know, so just for me, it's something I can't really get invested in. But I don't think that means people shouldn't. It looks like a great show. I heard that one of the major actors actually passed away.
Yeah, the main villain
antagonist
died.
Yeah, the main villain. So that's a shame. But I hope he gets a good send off at least. Sounds like a terrific guy and good guy to work with. So, you know, condolences to everybody. But yeah, I love Ahsoka. I don't care about this show, and I kind of wish I did. There's definitely things in my life where I have that feeling of like I wish I was invested in this. Andor season 2, the next season of Mando, I'm there, but everything else, it's really got to blow me away to make me want to do it. And I only crumpled on Andor. Crumpled, it's a weird word. I only kind of got sold on Andor after like months and months of people being like, this is excellent, this is incredible, you got to see this, best Star Wars has ever been in a long time.
Yeah, it was.
I think even you, Seb, was like, you know, Dora, you'll love this, like you love New Hope.
Yeah, it's the best.
You love this.
It's the best thing Star Wars has done since Empire Strikes Back.
It's incredible. I mean, and just to be clear, I love Andor. Andor is honestly probably only behind A New Hope for me in terms of my favorite Star Set material. It's that good. And I think A New Hope is like one of the best heist movies of all time, pretty much. Set in space, obviously.
Should have won Best Picture when it came out.
Yeah,
by the way.
well, you know, pretty good.
Like I won every nomination except for Best Picture, I think.
Right. So, anyway, yeah. I mean, it sounds cool, and I hope the people who are watching it enjoy it. It's not for me, for various complicated reasons about Disney and just the way that they do things. I don't like the way that they do that. Oh, you need to have watched Rebels and watch this, and I don't like that. I'm not saying it's bad, and you know, as long as it's still easy enough to follow, I think that's the important thing.
It is,
but it does.
It is.
It does chafe against me. Something inside of me is like, this just feels like a weird way to do things. Of like, have a series, turn that series into 2 side series, make another series, and have those other 2 side series that people don't necessarily have to watch and you haven't really stressed to watch those and then come back. It just feels convoluted.
It does seem like that, but it doesn't connect to like all the other shows like Mandalorians, Andor, all that. It's just Clone Wars, Rebels, this show. All right, so if you just follow, and this is over the course of, 17 years. So it's not that hard to follow in that regard. It's not like Marvel where it's like 5 shows are setting something up in this show.
Sure.
Nothing like that.
I mean,
I'm just saying.
7 seasons, Rebels is like a few seasons. It's still like 4, a lot, but it's definitely 4. It's definitely less than Marvel for sure, though.
Yeah, it's like this is just a sequel. That's all I'm saying. It's not like there's a 500 things to set one thing up in this show. It's more like this is just a sequel to Rebels. In fact, even the first episode, it ends as a live action reenactment of the ending of Rebels. So, it's 100%. We knew the show was coming anyway because Rebels ends on a setting like the cliffhanger, not cliffhanger, but like okay, we're going on an adventure to find Ezra. So, if you guys don't know Thrawn is one of the most iconic villains in Star Wars. He is an amazing character. Not just the fact that like, because what I like about him more than anything else, just the fact that like he's not a Sith. And, like, they always do, like, Star Wars always likes to go for, like, oh, we're going to make the villain, like, a Sith, and they have powers and lightsabers and stuff. But, like, he's a full-on just, like, a master strategic commander. Like, he always outmaneuvers everybody. He's just an amazing thinker. He has an awesome voice. Now, they got the original voice actor to play him in this show, but he looks a lot like Elon Musk. So if people are calling him Elon, it's really funny. I mean, it's not even like he legitimately looks like Elon. They haven't showed him yet, but we're on episode 4 on Tuesday. So the show's almost over. Actually, we only got like 2 more.
I can't wait till there's a flashback with him and he's like, SpaceX, or something like that. Everything changed when I invested in SpaceX and became president.
Yeah. So that's a really good show. Like I said, you don't have to watch everything else. It's straightforward enough you can understand what's going on. But it's extra special when you know all these characters because all the characters are legitimately in the other show. Like it's a full-on sequel. All right. Let's move on to Twisted Metal, which is on Peacock. I don't really use Peacock, so this is like it's probably the first show I've actually watched on Peacock in full. Now that I think about it. Other thing would be The Office, but I already watched The Office on Netflix. But anyway, Twisted Metal is a really good show. I love schlock. I love those kind of I love shows that don't care about how bad they are. They just has fun with it. And this is the perfect example of that. This is the most high quality schlock I've ever seen. Like it's full. It does it like it's so stupid and goofy. Like especially Sweet Tooth. He stole the show for me. Like absolutely stole the show. Like. Every scene he was in was hilarious. Yes. So shout out to Samoa Joe.
Shout out to Samoa Joe. That's my real king of professional wrestling and TV right now. I'm mad at this show. I wanted to come on this podcast. I wanted to agree with James. I'm exaggerating James's position for full effect. But I wanted to like shit on it or like say it was really bad or dumb or whatever. Again, not necessarily James' position. I'm just exaggerating for comedic effect. But I can't. To me, this is a great show. And I argued with myself back and forth about whether it was just a good show or a great show. But I kept having that argument so often with myself. I'm like, it's got to be a great show for me. It doesn't blow me away. I'm not saying it does anything terrifically new. But I feel like the actors are cast so well. They perform their lines very well. Even as a person who didn't really grow up playing Twisted Metal, I knew about it, of course. I had a PlayStation 1 and 2 and so forth. But I never got into the games. I was more of a Burnout person. So that's kind of where I stayed around. But I knew about Twisted Metal. I saw the advertisements. I watched a lot of shows that advertised Twisted Metal, of course. I knew of it. I knew it was like a demolition derby kind of game. I don't really know how they got such a compelling story out of that. This show has convinced me that you can make a story about, and I guess this sounds obvious when I say it aloud, but you can make a story about anything and it can be good. You just have to have like the right writers, the right actors, and so on. Obviously, that sounds obvious when you say it, but it's true. I mean, this story works somehow, and the actors make it work too. I don't know.
Yeah.
Stephanie I'm gonna mispronounce her last name, but Stephanie Beatriz from Brooklyn Nine-Nine fame is excellent in this. What's his name? Anthony Mackie. That's his name, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
He of Marvel fame is also excellent as like kind of the quick-witted big pro tag energy.
John
in this,
Doe.
for sure. Yeah. So it's I don't know. It's a frustrating like for me. I don't want to like this show because I feel like it feels like it should just be a cash grab that sucks, and I don't like it. And I was never invested in Twisted Metal to begin with. But like I felt genuine. This is the last thing I'll say because I know James wants to say something. But like this is like I felt genuine emotions about a goddamn car in this show, and I should not feel emotions about a flipping car. So, granted, I am a sap sack. So, you know, it's not that hard, but still, wild.
Now, hang on a second, Dory.
Yeah, I'm hanging.
I will have you know that this is my second favorite post-apocalypse road trip TV show based on a PlayStation Studios IP released in the year 2023.
Okay. Wait, what's number one?
The Last of Us.
Oh, Last of Us. Yeah, I just realized that. Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's a good point. You know, when you're right, you're right.
Look, actually, I want to comment on what you said about the story being compelling, right? Sure, the story is compelling, but it's so simple, and simple is not necessarily bad, okay? But for me, it just doesn't do anything interesting, okay? Like, the guy has to deliver a package. Yeah, you know, he forms a relationship with a person on the way, and hijinks ensue. It just doesn't do anything exciting for me. That's the thing with the story. And my other major criticism of the show, and I will say, like, look, it's not the worst thing ever. It was engaging. I did watch all 10 episodes, and it's very digestible. You know, half-hour episodes, and it's easy. It's an easy watch. But my other major criticism is this is one of the ugliest things I've ever seen put to television. It's incredibly horribly photographed. Like, I mean, I don't think they even hired a cinematographer.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him. We now understand why James hates this show so much.
They just stuck a camera on the corner of in the corner of the car.
I know what you mean.
And said roll camera. Like,
yeah.
There's no effort. It's ugly. It's poorly lit.
It's a very simple
clearly,
show.
Like,
yeah.
It's poorly lit. There's like no effort put into the composition. They spent the entire CGI budget on Sweet Tooth's hair. There's no effort put into so many factors. I find it almost offensive.
Well, I mean, yeah. That's kind of stuff you would focus on more, I guess, than like me with like noticing grammar mistakes. So that's on brand for you.
Yeah, it's very on brand for James.
But you're not wrong, I guess. But it just doesn't bother me. It's not Mad Max Fury Road.
Same.
Obviously, it's not.
Yeah.
But it's still entertaining. Like in that, like I was cool with the action scenes. I understood what was going on. Like this, it was fine. Like what I like about the show was, well, first of all, the storyline in Twisted Metal is basically Mortal Kombat. You know,
yes.
Calypso is Shang Tsung. There's a tournament. Get all the best racers in the country together, survive. That's basically the whole plot of Twisted Metal every game. But the show actually doesn't do that until at the end. But this show is this is a post-apocalyptic show. It's kind of like Mad Max. Like, this is the closest thing to Mad Max, obviously. It's basically what, like, how I view this show is kind of like a serial. Like, this is like not Mad Max. This is like Mad Max, where in the fact that like there's no you kind of just get introduced to a character and like they just throw them in the world and then they just have fun with the world. Like, there's no like building things. It's just like, okay, here's a serial adventure. There's Anthony Mackie. He's John Doe. He doesn't remember anything. Throw him in a car. He delivers stuff to different places, and he always has to survive. And then you just follow the character, and that's it. Which I actually like. I actually do like when shows or movies kind of just like Indiana Jones, already established. You don't have to like do a whole bunch of backstory. Oh, Anthony Mackie just doesn't remember. Throw him in he's an awesome delivery man. Throw him in like a car chase. That's what I like about the show is just the pacing. It's just like it tells a simple story. Just have characters all be witty. It's very like every single character in the show has a witty comeback to everything. There's not one character that's not like smart. Like they
the Joss Whedon effect.
Yeah, which is fine. Works perfectly for this show. Even has like the Cindy from Scream as the main villain, I believe. So it's stupid. It's a stupid show, but it's like it just works. You know what I mean? It has no business being as good as it is. Like the show should be awful, and it feels like a show that would be on Sci-Fi, but it actually has a decent budget, even though it's not the prettiest show ever. Like this show could have looked so much worse. Like it could have been hot garbage, and it actually just works. And like James said, it's very digestible. It's only 30 minutes each. I watched it on a random Thursday, like a one night. It wasn't that bad. I was doing work while I was watching it. It was. It has a sex scene in the ball pit. Like it just has fun with it.
That caught me off guard. Oh.
It was funny. I was laughing. Like I was just very. But Sweet Tooth was just like. First of all, they made him very goofy. I mean, they never really gave him a lot of character in the games, but like in the black one, Twisted Metal Black or I forgot what it's called. That's the David Jaffe one from like 2012 or whatever. He's a full-on like evil villain. He murdered his whole family and shit like that. And this show is more. He was like a child star, and he snaps and kills the dog, which was like unexpected. And then he gets thrown in an insane asylum, and he loves it. Then he goes back, and then but I don't want to go in too much detail, but they gave him like a different backstory. He was like a former child star. He wanted to be like an actor. He wanted people to applause for him, which was cool. But like they definitely made him goofy. Like he's not that goofy in the games. I know he's a clown. You think like he's gonna be like the Joker, but he's really more like a evil serial killer character, and he is a big murderer in this show. But it's like always played for laughs. Like every time he kills somebody cuts their head off or something, it's way over the top. There's blood everywhere, and he's laughing. So they made everything goofy, but I think it works though because I don't think the show would work if it got ultra dark, where he murdered his whole family like that. I don't think that would work.
Yeah.
Like one criticism I do have with Sweet Tooth. It's a minor one, and it comes from me being a professional wrestling fan. If you've ever heard Samoa Joe talk, the man is an excellent speaker.
Mm-hmm.
B, like terrifying as hell. I've literally told Kim, look, if I'm going down an alleyway and there's a fork in the alleyways for some reason, just go with it. It's an example. It's a hypothetical. And like on the left is like that machine from Resident Evil 4 that like just I think Seb will know what I'm talking about. Like the guy is driving in the castle in the original Resident Evil 4. Where it like just runs you over, it's got spikes and stuff. It's an insta kill.
Yeah.
And on the right is Samoa Joe. I'm going Resident Evil 4 all the way. That man is fucking scary. I like legitimately, he is a terrifying human being. He's a nice guy, but like, man, I would never want to fuck with him. And I just feel like they could have used his voice. And like, I get it. They wanted to go a more comedic route, so they used BoJack Horseman's voice. So I'm a little disappointed about that. But I think Samoa Joe can be silly too, and he can be funny. But yeah, I don't know. That's like a little minor thing. I agree with James. Production's definitely not the best. It didn't bother me. But I also don't really notice things like that. There's like literally times on Twitter where there will be memes about like production errors or issues, and I'll literally be looking at it for like a minute, and I'll be like, I don't see what's wrong with this picture. And like I'll have to go into the comments and people have to point out, and they'll be like, "Oh, I'm such a dumbass." So that kind of stuff just doesn't faze me like it does for James. But I totally get it. I mean, I would not recommend this show based on its photography. I also agree that a lot of the stuff, it's tired, it's old, it's tropish, whatever. That's fine. I honestly had very minimal expectations of the show, so the fact that it surpassed them, I guess, is good. I don't really like being a whole low expectations, you'll be pleasantly surprised all your life kind of person, because that's just kind of a cynical way to live in my opinion. But with this, I mean, you just have good reason to have low opinion. It's a sudden seemingly cash grab. It is a cash grab, but based on a lesser known PlayStation title that really hasn't seen play in a long time. So it's just
11
weird.
years.
And yeah, 11 years. So I didn't really expect much, but was pleasantly surprised. I think it's funny. The first couple episodes, I was laughing in spite of myself. Like I was chuckling, but I was like, man, I don't know if I should be laughing. But after a few episodes, I started to just stop worrying and enjoy it. So
I found the first couple episodes the toughest to get through.
yeah, the first one in for sure is I think the weakest, probably one of the weakest episodes.
No, definitely. I was very much wondering why there was so much praise for the show. With those first ones, I was like, this is exactly what I expected. I was thinking. But then it does pick up after that.
It's the Vegas episode that really got me into it.
Right. That was episode 2 or 3, right?
Yeah.
3, I think.
Yeah.
The one thing I'll say about Sweet Tooth, if I could give it one point of praise, it'd probably be that I very few times thought about Will Arnett while I was listening to him talk, which is a positive, because if they'd done it poorly, I would have just been hearing Will Arnett.
Yeah, you forget it's Will Arnett. I mean, you know, because we know the behind the scenes stuff, but you don't. You kind of just like don't even think about it. Yeah, it's not. It's like when Will Smith plays a character. I just like, oh, it's Will Smith playing a character. You know what I mean? It's not.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't. Yeah. You want to? Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
You get character actors and you get movie stars.
Yeah. Oh, it's Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Tom Cruise plays Tom Cruise in every movie he's ever.
Yeah, like Mission Impossible is amazing movies, right? And I know his character has a name and everything, but it's just Tom Cruise.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a stupid show, but it's a lot of fun, and it's like an easy watch, and you just turn your brain off. Just don't expect much. And if you go in expecting like something phenomenal, then yeah,
cinema perhaps.
Yeah, cinema.
Yeah, I want to say also, like, I also love schlock. Kim and I watch a lot of horror movies in October, which is right around the corner.
Yeah.
So I love schlocky films. I love dumb films. I mean, there are some exceptions. There are some like well-known cult hits that I think are just bad and boring. Not Gremlins 2. Trolls 2, for example, is like a beloved classic of bad horror. But I legitimately just thought it was boring and bad, with some like memeable moments here and there. But I still love schlock. Like I love Attack of the Killer Tomatoes is a fine film, and I enjoy that kind of stuff. I love Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which is not as much a schlocky film as it's like a dirty, gritty film.
The second one,
so
the sequels are definitely.
The sequel is definitely
full-on comedies. They're comedies.
Yes, I'm excited to watch the sequel this year, actually, for the first time. Double chainsaws, baby. Anyway, So just all to say, if you like schlock, you might like this. If you don't like schlock,
it's like
it's not a definite, but you might not like it.
If you like Mad Max, you like the whole like kind of setting where it's like just a bunch of like regions and like people just travel everywhere, and there's a bunch of like towns and people with spikes on their shoulders and masks on, and that kind of world. You really like this. Like I said, it feels like it'd be in the same universe as Mad Max. So
yeah, but I feel like it has to be said that this is like Mad Max Fury Road is a masterpiece.
No, but Fury Road is like, well, remember there's like 3 other Mad Max movies.
No, you're talking about Mad Max as a whole.
Yeah.
I think most people have probably only seen Fury Road. So if you were to go into this expecting Fury Road,
no, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's same aesthetic, same kind of world. But yeah, Fury Road is like the greatest. Fury Road is like the greatest car chase movie of all time. Like there's no competition.
The thing is, Mad Max is just Australia.
Basically.
And this, it literally is just Australia.
Yeah, it is.
Where's Mitch when we need him?
Twisted Metal is CGI. It's kind of that's the thing you get a lot of, is like when they're in the car and it pans out to a shot of the car driving. You're not actually seeing a car driving a lot of the time. You're seeing a CGI created environment.
As a TV budget in comparison to like master craftsman of Fury Road is like the movie's like a masterpiece. Like that's like the pinnacle of like action movies. So
exactly,
it's not fair to compare it.
Like a CW level TV budget.
I would say it's better than that. I mean, it looks. like it's not the Flash like season 6 or 7.
I stopped watching after like 3 seasons of that, so I can't comment. But
No, trust me. We get the Flash doing lightsaber fights, like it just gets peak stupid. Even for like schlock, it's just like this is not watchable. But we ready to move on?
Yeah.
So one big surprise, as Twisted Metal is a huge surprise, but One Piece especially is a giant surprise because anime adaptations, live action anime adaptations, are usually horrible, absolutely horrible. Like, we all saw the Cowboy Bebop mess, like that.
Yep.
That, if there was any show you can translate to live action really good, is Cowboy Bebop, because Cowboy Bebop is like one of those shows like you don't have to like anime to like it. It has the most amazing western bounty hunter in space. It's just an awesome concept, and they just made it so goofy, and they just shit on the whole Cowboy Bebop, and it got canceled after 1 season. In this case, though, this show captures the spirit of One Piece so well that and in fact, it does things better than the original show. Because first of all, the original anime started off in 1999. So we're talking about like it's adapting like the first season that came out like a long time ago, 24 years ago. But what makes this show so good? First of all, it is a high budget show. There is so much high production in the show. This is Netflix's premiere show. They put everything into this show. It's not just some side project they wanted to like to appeal to anime fans. This is made to like get a giant audience in. This is like Pirates of the Caribbean, Disney budget. This whole show is a set piece. Like the set design in the show is phenomenal. They're on legitimate real ships. There's the CGI. We'll talk about the CGI. It's not bad, but everything in the show is like built on a real set. Everything's handcrafted. There's a lot of practical effects. They put everything into this. It really captures the heart of like One Piece. If you guys, I don't know how well you guys know One Piece. I'm sure James has no idea what One Piece really is. Just the fact that it's an anime.
I'm guessing it revolves around a piece of something.
Yeah.
But there's only one piece of said thing.
Yes. So.
Nailed it in one.
Basically, there's a very famous pirate. Before he's executed, his treasure is hidden, and he says, if you find my treasure, you're gonna be the king of the pirates, and you're gonna find the treasure. So it starts off a whole age of pirates. Everybody's looking for this treasure. And Luffy, who's the main character of one of the most iconic anime characters of all time, on the level of Goku. This is the highest selling manga series of all time. One of the highest selling animes of all time. It's like Star Wars level of anime, like Dragon Ball is in Japan. It is one of those like they have theme parks and merchandise left and right. Like it's a cultural phenomenon in Japan, and Luffy wants to be king of the pirates. So he's like he's made of rubber, completely made of rubber. He ate a gum fruit. So what happens is it makes his whole body rubber, so he can stretch his arms and legs, his whole body as much as possible. But he can't he can't swim. That's his ultimate weakness.
I forgot about that, and the ultimate irony of him being a pirate who can't swim.
Exactly. Right. So it gives you a lot of powers, and it gets way extreme later on. Like we're talking thousands of episodes later. He gets like full on like Goku level. But before we get to that, in this show though, this is the beginning of the show, right? And Luffy is like on his own little ship. There's a really cool like messenger bird with practical effects. It looks awesome. So Luffy eats the gum fruit. So in One Piece, One Piece is a unique world. It is a pirate show, but it is a world where there's like monsters and giant like dinosaurs and samurais and like if you eat a devil fruit, it gives you powers. But if you eat the fruit, you lose the ability to swim. So a lot of the characters are like pirates, obviously. So if they fall in the water, they're in trouble. They drown. So Luffy's ultimate weakness is swimming, not just swimming, but seawater, which happens to him in the show actually a couple times. And it's ironic, as Dory said, because he wants to be the king of the pirates, but he can't swim. But it gives him like super strong abilities, and like he can't be stabbed, or he gets hit in the head with a mace. It doesn't infect him because his body's made of rubber. And the rubber scenes, like when he stretches his arms and punches the character in the face, legitimately looks great. The CGI in the show is really good. Like I said, Luffy completely stretches. And he can do all these crazy things like stretch his arms and punch a character in the face. It actually looks good. Which you would think it would look awful, absolutely awful. And they even shout out like anime, like Gum Gum, you know, whatever it's called, and like the anime character would. But it's not cheesy, to me anyway. It actually captures it really well. But the writing in the show is amazing. It's really heartfelt. All the characters are likable. It adapts all the characters, gives every character a backstory. Every single character in the Straw Hat crew, is developed. Every character gets a backstory about their childhood. There is all the villains get development. Buggy especially gets a lot more character arc. Buggy's the clown. He ate the devil fruit as well, and he can put his body parts anywhere. So there's a lot of comedic effect with that with his head. He's actually really funny in the show. They really developed Kobe. Kobe is like he has like pink hair. He's played by a trans actor from Australia.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I think he's gonna be a main character, like in the future seasons, because I'm sure this show is a huge hit, and I'd imagine they're gonna take the glasses away from him and use the same actor. I've never seen a like live action out of anime actually capture like characters from an anime. They even keep the same hair color, and it doesn't look really awful. I mean, some cases, like sometimes I wish it's a little too bright and it looks off. Like characters have blue hair and orange hair and red hair, but it actually looks good on most characters. Like Shanks, for example, like he looks like a legitimate, like awesome looking pirate, even though he has like super red hair. Not like a ginger, but like full on like crimson red hair, like in the anime.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's part of what consulting with, I think his name is Odo or something like that, but the creator of One Piece so heavily. Yeah.
Oh,
absolutely.
You definitely, like, the casting in the show is perfect. I have never seen a show, I've seen a show, but there's very rare shows like this that captures the casting so well. Almost every character is spot on. Like, it's amazing, like, how well this show is casted. The character that played Luffy is so perfect. Like, he's gonna be a huge star. Like, he even like got like Oda. He literally put the hat on his head, like what young Luffy got like when he became a pirate. It's like every people in Japan say he's Luffy in real action. Like he's gotten that praise. Like he is Luffy in real life, and that's like it's insane to have that honor. Like, you know, like he's not like what's his name, Justin something, who played Goku when he's in high school. Yeah.
No, like, no. We're not talking about that. Let's move on. Yeah. It didn't happen.
This has the love and the heart of One Piece. Like it respects it so much. But what I love about it for you guys, like somebody that wouldn't watch One Piece, like especially James. Like I feel like James could really get into this show because it doesn't feel like an anime adaptation. It feels like a legitimate like pirate show with fantasy elements. It's very grounded, but it has a lot of goofy, over the top moments. Like if you look at it that way, but it's very like it's in a real world setting, grounded kind of environment. So yeah,
that kind of gets into what I was going to ask you, right?
Yeah,
because I mean, I don't have a dog in this fight, other than hating Netflix and everything it stands for.
Yeah,
but with this, it's looking from the outside in.
Mm-hmm.
My question is like, why does this need to exist? Because my kind of thinking is, if you have to go to such lengths with like CGI and kind of changing, like, because you know the guy's rubber or whatever, so you can stretch and stuff. Obviously, stuff you can't actually do in live action, so you need to use special effects and stuff. If you have to go to such lengths, like if you're so shackled by the constraints of live action that you need to go to all those lengths to work around it being live action, why does it need to be live action in the first place?
It doesn't.
Does the show justify itself in that way?
Does it need to exist? No. Like, does the Last of Us show need to exist? No. Were they both still good? Yes. So it's like, they're just, One Piece is most popular than it's ever been, even though it's been around for 20-something years. One Piece has been a phenomenon. Like, all my students read One Piece. It's like Dragon Ball. It's just like, it's so popular. So Netflix is just jumping on the wagon. So yeah, it doesn't need to exist. But like I said, the special effects are really well done. It could really be stupid. Like, it has no business being as good as it is. And then, like I said, even though it has like those CGI moments with like a CGI sea monster or like characters doing special moves, it's very grounded. It has everything's like practical with set pieces. There's costume design. It's like, it's not just CGI. It's not like everywhere you look it's green screen and like big stupid silly fake moments. It's not Marvel. Like, there's actually a love for the world. Like, it's actually building a real world. Like one of the reasons like Pirates of the Caribbean, like 2003 one, is so good because everything's like practical. I mean, obviously the skeletons, but they look good when they with the moonlight, because everything's like real ships, real set pieces, real character development. Everybody has a focus, and I love that the show decided. I love that they decided to make it a show that's 8 episodes rather than like a movie. Because if it was a movie, everything would have to be so. You're adapting 70 episodes into like a one movie. That would be terrible. And
how long is each episode?
An hour.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
So this show every character gets a lot of development. Every character like is memorable. For example, Luffy. I talked about Luffy. Sanji is the cook. He's like he's British. He has a very strong British accent in this one. He has a whole backstory where he gets stranded on an island and the guy cuts his leg off to survive. Then you got Zoro, who's wants to be the best swordsman in the world, and he has a whole backstory about that. Yeah, and Nami, and she has a whole story about how like her mother was killed in front of them, and she's trying to get like a certain amount of money to save her village. And every character, and Usopp his mom died, and he's the boy who cries wolf, and no one believes him, but the pirates. And it adapts the show, the anime, but like every character, this is why One Piece is so popular, because every character is just like amazing and developed and memorable, and it's one of the best shows in that regard. Yeah, like I can't praise the show enough. I'm so happy it's good. It had no business being good. Live action anime, the anime is just not meant to be translated to live action. It works in animation because it's so over the top, but in this case, because it captures like the groundedness of like the pirate world, where like the ships and docks and samurais and all that stuff. It's like it works because it feels like a real breathing world without like being like just like shitty CGI left and right, green screen. It doesn't feel like a Zack Snyder movie where it's like everything's just like, oh, we're gonna make everything CGI everywhere you look, and it's like looks fake. I hate that. That's what I hate about the Star Wars prequels, for example, right? Like I like those movies. I like those movies because I grew up with them to an extent, but like they look fake. Like everywhere you look is CGI. This show actually has like the like love for the show, so I totally recommend it. It's really really good. It is 8 episodes. Each is an hour, so it's 8 hours of content. So it's a really there is a lot of development, a lot of character. Now, if I want to criticize the show, sometimes the CGI is not the best. Like it's mostly good, but sometimes it shows its TV budget a bit. You see it. You'll know what I mean if you see it. And sometimes I think some of the villains are like Arlong. He's a fish man. He doesn't translate well like look wise in live action, I think, compared to the anime, because he has like a pointy nose, like a pointy sharp nose. He's a fish guy, and it looks a little goofy. I mean, he's a cool character in the live action. Don't get me wrong. Like I like how the actor played him and everything, but it is a little too goofy, over the top for live action. And also they adapt like an arc every episode, and sometimes it's like it goes like a little fat. Like it goes like point A, point B. The villain doesn't really get much development. Like they cut out a lot of content for that, but I think it works. But sometimes it's like it feels like, oh, okay, we could have like developed that a little more here and there. But to me, this is like a very solid, at least an 8 out of 10 kind of show. It's like it is really good. I feel like there's things to improve on in that regard, because like obviously One Piece is not the best in the beginning anyway. There's so much more to One Piece. Like I mean, it's been going on for 20-something years. It's 1,100 episodes, so it's the longest running anime of all time, I believe. So my question though for this show is, this is season 1. They only adapted 70 episodes out of 1,100 episodes. So how far are they gonna go with this? Is this gonna be like an 8 season show? Is this gonna be like Game of Thrones? Like is this gonna be Netflix's major franchise where they put a lot of, like, are the actors gonna be playing these characters for like 10 years? I don't know. The show's a hit, and it's getting well liked. It has like 80 something on Metacritic. No, not Metacritic. Rotten Tomatoes. The audience is like 93%. All the fans are happy. It's streaming really well. So is this show going to be like 10 years? Is it going to be 8 years? Or are they just going to be like 4 years? They're going to be like, oh, we don't want to do this anymore. So they'll make up their own ending. Or I don't know what the plan is. So
No, I think just given the success, Netflix will probably can it after 2 seasons.
You're definitely right. That's my biggest problem with Netflix, is that like I always get into a really cool show and I'm like, oh, I'm really digging season 1. I don't know anything about it, right? Like, this is what happens all the time. I'm looking for a movie to watch, and then I end up watching a show. That's why I find a really cool trailer on like while I'm browsing about a show. I'm like, wow, this looks really cool, and I watch the whole season 1 like in one night or two, whatever. And then I find out like why I'm like, or I find out that it got canceled while I was watching it, or like it got canceled like 2 weeks before I started watching it. It's like I'm really into the show, and then I find out it's canceled, and it's like, this happens way too consistently. At this point with Netflix, it's like don't even advertise the show if you're just gonna cancel it. Like, why is this like on the front page, like with this cool like graphic and trailer and everything, and you don't even, and it's just canceled. Like Warrior Nun, for example, I thought it was really cool. Yeah, sorry.
Netflix doesn't care about how many people are enjoying a show. They care about
they suck.
How many new people are subscribing to Netflix to watch the show.
Exactly. Ironically, Netflix is not the go-to for shows for me. Like I watch a lot of Hulu or Max for shows.
Apple TV
and Apple TV is
really
the king of shows for me. I've watched so many shows on Apple TV. But Netflix, Netflix is good for me for movies. Like if I want to watch, like they have a lot of Oscar movies on there, or the Oscar movies that came out like 2 years ago that I didn't see. And then I got to finally watch a bunch of them, or a lot of cool action movies or something like that. But even then, all of them have a lot of cool movies like that. So Netflix doesn't really stand out for me.
Your Netflix is better than our Netflix. You guys get recent movies and stuff. We get hee-haw. We get nothing.
Yeah. Even then, we don't get like a lot. Like
I have to use a VPN and browse Canadian Netflix. And I'm looking at Canadian Netflix. They've got Parasite. They've got the Batman. They've got Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, we don't get that.
No,
we don't even get
Canadian Netflix. Canadian Netflix gets it.
None of those were.
Canadian Netflix gets everything. U.S. Netflix has been suffering for a while.
Dungeons and Dragons is on Max, I think.
It's
on Max.
It's also on Sling TV too.
Yeah, Max is really. I think Max is the best for movies. Like their shows are. I mean, if you like HBO, then yeah, Max is amazing. But
yeah.
So that's the place to go to watch.
Start talking about Stray Gods?
Yeah, I'm gonna start moving on now. So yeah, I recommend it. If you like pirates and you like fantasy and all that stuff, so it's really cool. I'm so happy it ended up being good. So, Stray Gods.
Kids, do you like musicals? Do you like ancient Greek mythology? And do you like murder mysteries? Well, do I have a game for you? No, we're not doing our little bits that we used to do. But no, so this game is all those things. It's a musical, which I'm not usually into. Murder mysteries, I love. And ancient Greek mythology. I mean, I love Hades. So, 2 out of 3. Pretty winning combination for me. And it's helped by the fact that you've got, of course, the guy who voices everything, Troy Baker. You've got Laura Bailey. You've got Ashley Johnson. You've got the whole Crit gang there, or the whole Last
It's
of Us
the
gang,
Avengers
depending on
of
who you
voice
are.
actors. This
It's
game.
the Avengers of voice actors, right? So,
Yeah.
and then they brought it. I love it because Troy Baker really did say, yeah, you can hire me, but you got to hire all my friends too. And I respect that for him, actually, legitimately. That's good stuff. Support your friends. But yeah, so it's very well voice acted. That probably doesn't even need to be said. It's also very well sung. I think the weakest part of the game is also the best part of the game. Is one of those cases where it's like the songs are all great, but I would have a hard time remembering any of them, honestly. None of them were like bangers. None of them
That's
like
my
stuck
issue
in my
too.
head.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the game a lot. I think it's a great game.
Yeah.
I think it's a really great game. The murder mystery is compelling. The characters are well written. I love the comic book animation style. The twists are fun. You know, the gameplay is a little limited. It's mostly a visual novel. You can't. It's a shame. I remember seeing it from another review. I think it's IGN or maybe Gaming Bolt or something. But they're like, they have these beautifully animated and painted, or whatever. I don't know if it's painted, but I'm just using the word generally. Painted kind of landscapes and environments, but you can't really interact with them. And it feels a little odd and leaves you it's a little immersion breaking. And it kind of sucks because it's not like Doki Doki Literature Club, right? Where like the backgrounds are all pretty plain. They're nicely animated, of course, but they're pretty plain and they're kind of samey after a few playthroughs. This, it's like everything looks so gorgeous and like it looks like so lived in, but you can barely do with anything with the environment, and it's a shame. It's a waste of potential. And it's not a big issue. I would say it's a minor criticism. It's not a huge issue for me, but I did sometimes look in the background, and I wish I could get more than just an up close of a single object in a room or something. But anyway, that said, I have more positives to talk about, but let's have Seb talk about his issues or stuff with the game, not just issues, hopefully.
Oh boy. Well, don't get me wrong. This game is really good. I was really digging it where I was at. I love musicals. I absolutely love musicals. This is my kind of thing. I love Greek mythology. It's a perfect mix. I love a murder mystery, so it just works. And I was really digging it, and it deleted my save 2 times. Like I exited out of the main menu, and it just deleted my save, like for no reason. It just deleted it. So and there's no chapter select or anything like that. So I had to play the whole thing again to the point where I was at, and then I deleted my save again, and I was like, "F this game, I'm done," and I deleted it. And then Dorian had a conversation. I was like, I'll wait till it gets patched to play it, and because I understand it's a small team, indie game, whatever. So I was like, okay, I don't want to like go on a whole rant about it. So I just want to hit on it now. This game had massive problems with save deleting. I know the Switch ports have like problem with the animation, like it looks off sometimes, and I had audio problems where like it got extra loud for no reason. Like it sounded like someone was screaming into the mic. But outside that though, like the game itself, it is limiting, but the visual novel is very interesting. The characters all have awesome voices, memorable dialogue, cool mystery. I love all the I love how they modernize all the Greek gods. It's like to fit like in the modern world. It has like a wolf. It very much so reminds me of Wolf Among Us in several ways, or Fable, and the fact that Fable, as in the comic book series that Wolf Among Us is based on, and the fact that like it has a neon pink noir look to it, and also the fact that like all the gods are hiding in plain sight.
Yeah.
But as Dory said though, the songs are not that memorable at all. Really, it's kind of just the dialogue and singing. Like they're just singing the dialogue basically. So they'll just break out in song because Grace, right?
Grace, yes.
She's a muse. She inherits the ability to be a muse, and she inspires people. She gets people to sing like whatever's going on, and so characters just break out in song, but it works. So I'll let Dory explain that more.
Yeah. So so like basically what you get your powers because a god is killed on your doorstep or near your doorstep, and she comes to your doorstep. So you're in this band with your friend Freddie. You're trying to get a thing going with the band. It's kind of weird because there are 2 other band members. You see them once and then you never see them again. So a little weird, but they live somewhere else, and Freddie's your best friend. So that's kind of the rationale. I will say by far the best character is Raul Coley's Minotaur, as a complete bumbling oaf who really wants the affections of one of the 3 fates. I can't remember her name. Kate. He calls her Kate. I can't remember her full name, but Hecate. And he's just excellent. I always love Raul Coley and anything he's in. I loved him in iZombie. I loved him in the sequel to the House on the Haunted Hill or whatever the hell it's called. Can't remember what that one was called, but the sequel to that series, both excellent. Great series, by the way.
Yeah.
He's always great. And he's very charismatic, and so he just does such a great job. Everybody's great in this, to be clear. But he's really great, especially. I did get emotional about certain parts of the game, but like I never like cried or got too upset. One part definitely surprised the hell out of me. It is kind of a one shot of a game, so they can kind of do anything they want with these characters. There's various endings you can get and various people you can romance. I'm boring. I went with Abs McGee, voiced by Troy Baker himself, which is Apollo. And I know I just didn't really find anyone else that interesting in terms of romance. Freddie felt too obvious, and I just didn't find her that attractive. And Persephone, I was never going to date. And Pan, I was never going to date, which, as a proud pansexual, was a little disappointing. I did feel like I had a legal obligation to at least give Pan a shot, but no dice.
I kept flirting with Persephone, so
yeah, that's fair. I mean, she's got the anime thing going on where the girl is like totally cold, but she can warms up to you over time. I can't remember what that's called, but
yeah.
It's like a whole trope in anime. You know what I'm talking about. But yeah, the characters are well written. They've all got good motives. They're all drawn out really well. Honestly, there's nothing this game does horribly wrong. It's just a bits of little thing. Obviously, Seb's thing sucked. I waited to play it another week or so. I mean, it helped that I was finishing up Baldur's Gate, I think. But the stuff with that really sucks. Fortunately, they have gotten it fixed as far as I could tell. I went to the main menu a couple times. I soft resetted. I went to the main menu a few times. I forgot. Because the UI can sometimes get a little messed up. You'll lose where the cursor is. I don't know if Seb had this issue, but you'll lose where the cursor is and you won't be able to figure out what you're selecting. Also, sometimes like you have to press A and then move down and then press A again. It's kind of a weird like UI choice. I don't understand. It's not a big deal. Again, these are just like death by 1,000 cuts kind of situation. It's not a bad game at all. It's a great game, actually. The graphics are great. The voice acting is superb. That's the best part of it. The writing is really great, too. The animation is excellent. It's the songs, really, that just... Relative to everything else, to be clear. None of the songs are bad. I think only one of the songs was maybe just good and not great. For me, personally. And I think even one song I thought was excellent. Here's one of my other major issues with the game. And this is a problem, I think, with musicals. I was talking to Kim about this the other day. And I was saying, I think it's a problem in musicals where sometimes you have these really big, serious issues that have been mulled about for years and years and years or whatever. And I get it. Grace is the muse, so her power is like bringing out everyone's inner emotions and turmoil in songs and like bringing that to truth and to bear and hashing it out and figuring out a resolution. But there were points in the game where it felt a little unrealistic that like something could get resolved from a song. Something could get resolved from a song in about 2 to 3 minutes. Especially, there's one part of the game where characters, there's some serious topics considered in this game, including not least of which is suicide. And it's handled very respectfully, very well. But it is wrapped up a little quick, and it does feel kind of like, wow, you've been mulling about this for a long time and doing this for a long time, and because they're gods. So suicide doesn't have quite the same meaning in this universe. It just felt a little too quickly resolved for me at points. That's about it. I mean, that's all I can really say about the game. That's all I really want to say about the game. I think it's a great game, a really great game, actually. Just kind of let down, but ironically by its songs, which I didn't feel were the strongest. They weren't bad, they were great, but when you have a musical as a game, you kind of have to push it better than just being great. For me anyway, but definitely not something I regret playing at all. I don't think I'll go back and play it. There's slightly different alliances you can have, slightly different relationships, slightly different endings. So it all ends up to a different playing experience if you play it again.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I could recommend it on that front. But I do recommend playing the game in general.
I can't recommend it for the price point. I think $30 is too much for a visual novel, like that's like short. For me personally, I feel like this game would have been better off being like $15-$20 instead of $30, but that's just me.
Yeah.
I like musicals. I like Greek mythology, so it was for me. It had like I said, the Wolf Among Us aesthetic, the noir, supernatural beings hidden in plain sight. That's cool. Best character for me was Pan. I thought he was really awesome. I love his voice, very iconic. The voice actor of him is iconic. He's in a million cartoons and stuff. Ashley Johnson was really good. She's a great singer. Troy Baker's always good. So Laura Bailey's always good. So yeah, this is like an amazing game just for the voice actors. But like I said, wait for a sale, in my opinion, and you'll like it a lot better. For me, I kind of regret spending $30 on it. I could have waited, but I can't say it's bad. It's a good game. It is a good game. You just gotta like visual novels. You just gotta like musicals. But but you would know that because you wouldn't buy this game on a whim. It's not like it's super advertised on the front page. Like you know what you're signing up for anyway. So yeah. Let's move on now to our last topic of the night, which is Gamescom. All right. So Gamescom happened a while ago now. It's been it was like a week or two. But we're gonna hit on opening night live mostly, right? That's where most of the announcements were, or all the announcements, and then the rest of the Gamescom was basically just showing those games that they had. But the thing is, with Gamescom opening night live, there was really no surprise. Like there's a couple here and there, but it was mostly games we know about. Yeah. And there was more of a focus on just selling those games, which is okay.
Credit to Jeff Keighley, he made sure to preface the show with that information and make sure to stress make sure everyone knew there were not going to be a ton of new announcements at this,
which is I think it's okay.
I think that was a good strategy because it certainly set my expectations and I came away really enjoying the show.
I really enjoyed it as well.
Yeah,
actually.
Yeah, I thought it was fine. I didn't have any serious issues with it, but it didn't blow me away either. I was just like, cool, that happened, and I kind of moved on.
I think what it was is that like the games they showed, I was already interested in, so I just wanted to see more of it. But there was some surprise, which we'll talk about. But first of all, they showed Starfield. Like Starfield was a big focus, right? I mean, it comes out. It already came out. And my thing was, I didn't want to see Starfield because I already sold on the game. I don't need to see anymore. Like I don't need like another. We've already gotten so much showcasing on that game that like I don't need more. But at the same time, I do think it needed more marketing. So it's one of those things where like I don't want to see marketing, but they should have marketing. So it's like whatever. I'll let it go. Now Jeff really needs to hire security. I mean, how many times are you gonna have let people run on the stage? Like it happens all the time. It's gonna get to the point where you're gonna get some person that gets violent, and I just don't want Jeff to get hurt. Like he legitimately, it almost feels like a running gag at this point now. Like I don't think it is, but it just feels like it. Like it keeps happening. You don't see this as much on other shows. Like, but yeah,
Will Smith is involved. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like he really needs to get better security. Like
for sure,
because he will get hurt at some point. There's always gonna be that one person that just does something stupid. But anyway,
yeah,
we don't have to get negative. One big surprise I really liked was Little Nightmares 3. I love Little Nightmares. I'm a big Little Nightmares fan. That was a big surprise to me. It looked really, really cool.
Yeah, I was surprised to see that. It's made by a different developer as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe so. One. Yeah.
I forget who. But it looks good. It's I believe it's co-op, and I don't think the first two co-op at all, were they?
I feel like Second one was, but I played with myself, so I'm just not remembering. Maybe it was. I don't remember it because you play as two characters.
There are two characters
That's a good
in
question.
both games, in the first game and in the second game.
That is true, but the first one was more like the other character was like scripted. I feel like the second
Yeah,
game there was
right.
more like a. Yeah, I think second game.
In the second game, the second character was definitely more integrated and helped you, but I don't think it was co-op.
Oh, okay.
So I think that's new for this one, which is interesting. But it feels like it fits. It feels really like it fits for that franchise.
Yeah, and it feels like they're totally different characters and setting. It doesn't feel like
Right.
I believe.
But then I think so did the second game initially.
Yeah,
So
I can't say what else
you might
spoiling,
know.
but yeah, you're right. Yeah,
right.
that's true. So.
But that one looks good. There's not much to say. It looks like another Little Nightmares game, really.
Which I have no complaints. I love
No,
those
no
games.
complaints
They
whatsoever.
they do a great job, like being at a certain length. It's not too long, not too short. It has really cool, memorable moments, cool horror, some cool platforming. I think the second game had a couple of moments where it was like kind of cheap, but like in the school section, I didn't like that. That was a little annoying,
Sure.
but other than that, our Little Nightmares 2 was a big improvement over the first game. The first game was great too, so I'm super excited for that. My problem with this show was just Jeff shows in general. Is just I hate trailer interview. Now, and especially since the interviews don't say anything new, they're just like people that don't speak English very well, they're not used to speaking publicly, trying to sell their game, and it just doesn't work. I think 'cause it hurts the pacing, and then Jeff asks bare bone questions, like he asks like scripted questions, and it just doesn't. It hurts the pacing for me. He does this in every show.
I'm of a different opinion to you on this one. Now, there's a number of factors. I mean, I'm into that kind of stuff. I love just seeing people talk about their projects and their games and stuff. Also, I was watching it with a friend, so we were kind of talking over a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, that didn't bother me quite as much. But I do see where you're coming from.
I think it's just too much. Like I feel like you can have it. I'm not against it. It's just that like I don't need to do. He does the same pattern like over and over and over and over again. They'll just because he doesn't ask anything beyond like, oh, this is the trailer. Isn't this cool? Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, and I know he does it to his questions could be better, but he does it because he wants a show with more emphasis on the creators, which I do appreciate.
I respect that, but he gives the developers spotlights, which is cool too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do wonder as well if without the interview segments, he would have a harder time justifying a live show to investors and the people with the money and all that stuff.
Good point.
You can't just do game trailer. That wouldn't work in his show. But I always feel like his shows, there's always like a piece of me he can just cut off. Like I always feel like there's just like, if he just cut off like 20, 30 minutes or something, it would be a lot better.
Yeah.
I always feel like his shows are too long.
One trend that I've noticed is there's always a chunk right in the middle, always in the middle of just anime games, like 5 of them back to back. Like they're all grouped together in the middle there.
Yeah.
And for the past few, it's been mostly the same anime games.
That's true. And then
Which is not for me, but I can appreciate people who are.
Plus, I find his shows to be very corporate, which they are because obviously he has the premier shows of gaming. Like he gets the most viewership, the most casuals. Because like he shows Call of Duty, it's like 25 minutes. And it's like, ugh, can we move on now? We already know it's gonna be a Hollywood budget.
I muted that. I literally muted the Call of Duty stuff. I was like, I don't care. You're not gonna convince me to care.
I play Call of Duty every year, and I like the campaigns because even though they're not. A lot of them, they haven't been like as memorable or iconic as like the 360 ones, but I still kind of like them just as like schlock of like fun action for like 8 hours or whatever it is. So you don't need to sell me on like another Hollywood big budget like seen. You know what I mean? So I just
No, but they're going to.
yeah
And,
yeah
but with this one, I told you I was watching this whole thing with a friend, and like we just spent the whole Call of Duty presentation just ragging on this game and all the marketing for it so far. Like it's so it feels like it misses it feels like it's a game made by marketing people, you know? It's so sanitized and like it's so look how cool this is, look how clean this is, and uh, it's so devoid of a soul in so many ways, and
Yeah.
also just everything that we've heard about the game, you know, like your progress is going to carry over from the last one, and the reason they're making Modern Warfare 3 is because they're running out of time on the yearly release schedule and stuff, and they're having to make all these choices, like having Sledgehammer make a Modern Warfare 3 because they ran out of time to make their own game, and all this kind of stuff. And like it starts to feel a little insulting as a consumer. Like it's the same problem we were talking about earlier with all the PlayStation stuff, right? It's very there just doesn't feel like a lot of respect for the people who are buying the product. And also, let's face it, this is going to be on Game Pass in a year. So why pay £70 for it now?
That's a really good point. There's no reason at all. If you know, that's my. I'm curious what's gonna happen with that. Like, if people like, how much is Game Pass gonna affect the sales of Call of Duty? I mean, how much? Like, and is their subs gonna go way up because people know like, oh, I can get the new Call of Duty for free, for $1 a month or $10.
I think it's such a Goliath that the sales will be fine.
Yeah.
I don't think the sales will shift much, but I do think the subscribers for Game Pass will also shoot way up at the same time.
Yeah, definitely.
Are there any games that really stuck out to either of you two? Because I don't really remember any games that really
Another
popped
one
out for me. There's
Go
a
ahead.
couple, but
The
yeah,
one-
I was gonna say. I mean, Black Myth Wukong looked pretty cool.
I was about
It's
to
not
say
for
that.
me. It's a Souls-like. It's not gonna be for me.
This game looks. We might as well talk about it now since you mentioned it.
Yeah.
It looks amazing for me. I love Souls games. I'm not a giant Souls fan, like I've said, but I played a lot of them at this point, and it looks fantastic. The visuals, the
It really
gameplay.
does, yeah.
I love Wukong. I mean, I love the Monkey King. Like that's one of my favorite stories. You know, Dragon Ball is based on that, and there's so much you can do with this character, right? Because he can turn into different animals, and he flies on a cloud. He has a magic pole that extends, and all that stuff. So there's so much you can do, and in the fantasy world that he's in is really cool. So it's a lot of demons and talking animal characters. So you can really do a whole awesome world. And from what we're seeing, like it has some really cool boss fights. Like there was like a giant monkey. There was like a Tiger Man guy. I'm looking at the trailer right now.
The boss
dragon
fights look really cool.
Yeah.
This is like one of those rare times where I wish I was into Souls-like games because
it looks hard now.
It looks so fun and it looks so cool, but I just know my controller ain't lasting a week with that kind of game.
Yeah, this looks like Sekiro hard though. It looks like there's a lot of mechanics in this game. There's a lot of it looks like there's a lot of parrying and like projectiles firing at you. So this game to me looks like one of the harder Souls games from what I'm seeing. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's gonna be more accessibility. I don't know if there's gonna be a difficulty option. I don't know, but it definitely looks harder. So
it's kind of. I mean, I've been won over by the Soulsborne genre a lot in the past couple of years, and this one looks phenomenal if they get it right, because the gameplay can look as nice as you like. If it doesn't feel good to play, it's dead in the water. But if they get it right, I think this has a lot of potential. I
definitely agree. I think it has Game of the Year nominee potential if it gets it right. Like Elden Ring, it could be like one of those like top 6. Like, oh my god, must play Souls games.
Yeah, it could be in like Sekiro territory for sure.
Definitely. We ready to move on? I don't have much more to add with that one.
Yeah. I do want to briefly shout out Thank Goodness You're Here, I think it's called.
Goodness,
Well, thank you, Dora. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem.
Sounds familiar.
No, yeah, it's the really wacky animated one.
Oh yeah. That looks fun.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck's going on, but it's from the creators of The Good Time Garden and the publisher of Untitled Goose Game. It's
that was a good game.
A comedy title which will take you through the bizarre northern English town. There you go, James, right in your backyard. Northern English town of Barnsworth. I knew that would upset him. Where the eclectic townsfolk are equipped with numerous wacky jobs that need to be completed. As a traveling salesman desperate to get acquainted with the new area, it becomes our job to complete whichever tasks are handed over by its inhabitants, no matter how obscure. So it sounds like WarioWare meets like a longer form comedy game. That's what I'm going to summarize it at. I just love the animation. It looks wacky as hell, and I love it. I just need more off the wall shit like this more often, please.
Yeah, it reminded me of WarioWare. That's what it reminded me of as well.
Yes, yeah. I don't know. Let's see. Sorry, James. Was there anything that popped up for you in terms of like games that were there? I mean, like Seb said, a lot of the stuff we already knew about.
There was, but I'll be honest, I did not kind of refresh myself before we started recording.
Yeah,
so
I'm only doing it right now, so.
Yeah, I remember a lot of it, but we hit on most of the big stuff. Like Tekken 8 looks really good for me because I know I'm a big fighting game fan, so I thought Tekken 8 looked really, really cool. I'm hyped for that one. That Nightingale game looked good. I didn't remember that one. That was like open world. That was, I don't remember ever hearing about that game, so that was a new thing. I can't find all this stuff now. All right.
I'm looking at the IGN article, and they have a bunch of stuff on their watch later because it was not actually in the show. It's obviously just from the floor.
Yeah, and then they showed Zack Snyder's new movie, which I didn't care for. With
all apologies to Mitch, I couldn't be less interested.
Yeah, I just couldn't get into it. I was like, I don't.
Those
it's a
films
game.
Are very like made for Netflix. Yeah.
I just hate when they hype these movies, these magnum opus, like, oh, I'm making this fantasy world. I'm the next George R.R. Martin. I'm doing Dune, and it feels so pretentious to me.
Oh, you know one thing that came out of Gamescom? That fucking Spider-Man inspired anime, Project Mugen. You know, the one that should definitely get sued by Marvel and Disney.
Yeah.
Collaboratively.
Yep. I remember that.
That was wild. I don't really care about copyright, but I thought that was fucking hilarious. It's so clearly like Spider-Man, but just with anime. Yeah, I didn't really see a lot in terms of what's that?
Sorry, this was not in the show, but apparently I'm looking at the IGN article of all the biggest announcements from Gamescom. Apparently they're doing an animated series based on Sky Children of the Light, which is the live service game from that game company, which made Journey.
Oh, I know what you're talking. Yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. Sky Children. They had that Aurora concert at the tail end of last year that I kept banging on about.
Yeah. None of us watched.
Yeah.
You got upset with us.
Oh,
exactly.
Marvel Snap. Marvel Snap had an incredible trailer. This is like one of the high points of me.
It's on Steam now.
Yeah, but I don't care about that. We're talking about the animated trailer that looks like an incredible show.
Yeah.
And B, Squirrel... Shut the fuck up, Seb! Don't steal my spotlight! Squirrel Girl got a goddamn magical girl transformation. It was so fucking cool, and you can't top that, baby.
Yeah,
good.
That was a really awesome trailer.
I was screaming at the TV. I was like, Squirrel Girl, let's go!
One thing I do want to touch on real quick. We already obviously know that Payday 3 is coming this month. But there was a new trailer for Payday 3. And while it didn't show much of note, I do want to mention that like the first trailer that we saw for Payday 3, the reveal trailer, very much looked like Payday 2. very much kind of look like more of the same. This trailer for Payday 3 that they showed, it looks like a different game now. It looks new. It looks like something I really want to play.
Lords of the Fallen they showed as well, which I'm excited about. Another Souls game. I really like the aesthetic, the dark fantasy setting. It comes out in October. I would love to play it at that time, but like it's so loaded in that month that like I don't know. Like I don't know if I'm gonna be in the mood to play a Souls game right around with Alan Wake and Spider-Man and Mario like right there. So I feel like that's a stupid release date for it, but maybe the Souls fans will get it no matter what. But I don't know. They showed that. That was really cool. I think
Liza P has a better release date for a Soulsborne.
Yeah, like they should have put Lord of the Fallen like November or something. I feel like.
Oh yeah.
Because people are digging it, but it's not like huge.
Apparently Neil Blomkamp's doing a battle royale.
Really?
Yeah, it's called Off the Grid, and according to IGN, it's it's a third-person shooter battle royale directed by Neil Blomkamp, who, as we all know, directed the recent Gran Turismo movie.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Are you interested in that though? Like something you?
No.
No. Okay. I think just so we're not dragging this topic out, we hit on most things. One thing I want to talk about is the Fort Solis game. They put a lot of advertisement in it. Troy Baker as well. From what I'm gathering, it looks like a interactive quantic dream game, where it's like scripted with the QTEs and all that. I do want to play it. It just feels like the wrong time. It's like just too many games to play right now. Like it just feels like dead in the water to put it like this close to like Starfield and all that stuff. So yeah. I'll play it when it's on sale in the future. But it definitely interests me. The visuals look amazing. It looks like Callisto Protocol and stuff, which had amazing visuals. The gameplay was lacking. But yeah.
Okay, so Cyberpunk, the Phantom Liberty. So I was watching this trailer and they were going over all the new improvements, new cop system, new gunfights while you're like vehicle combat and all that stuff. And I was watching this and I was thinking to myself, why are they charging money for systems which really should have been in the game at launch that they're putting into this DLC? And then the trailer ended and the person came on stage to talk about it and said that a bunch of those systems that they showcased there actually are coming to the game for free, which is a really nice and classy thing. But yeah, the DLC looks good too.
I'm not really interested in it personally. I have a 4080 PC now, so I will go play through Cyberpunk again, so I can actually legitimately play it. Because when I played it, it was on PS4 and it was just a complete shit show. So I'm not interested in it right now, but I will play it in the future. You know, I'll find a good time, like when 2023 is over and this crazy year's over, I'll find a nice spot for it. I feel like it's just too much. This DLC
Likewise.
coming next to Starfield and Liza P and Mortal Kombat, it's just too much.
I agree. It's low on the list of priorities for me.
Yeah, but I definitely will play it. Cyberpunk was a good game. Just it was just surrounded by too much controversy and graphical problems and performance problems. But like now it's totally different. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Last thing I want to point out that I noticed too is Fort Solis, which I know we talked about on the Twitter page. So I figured it was worth talking about here too. Did you just mention it? I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
I totally spaced on that. But yeah, I wanted to reaffirm what Seb said earlier because I'm a total dunce. And it does look very cool. The psychological horror is totally my bag. And of course, again, it's got Troy Baker. But yeah, continue. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I was saying it's like an interactive QTE kind of game. It seems like like a Quantic Dream kind of narrative where it's like you follow. It's very linear, and you I guess you pick things up by hitting a button. Those kind of games. I think Mortal Kombat 1 looks amazing. It looks absolutely amazing. I think we hit on all the big things. Like the big thing,
No.
the big thing for me was Mortal Kombat, the Wukong, and I guess in Starfield. That was like the big three.
No, you missed the biggest.
What?
The one last thing, Alan Wake 2.
Oh, that's right. Do you want to handle that one?
I had to. So when this was on live, I had to mute it and open a new tab and look away because I didn't want to spoil myself because I still hadn't finished the game, the first game. So I've been playing it and I finished it this morning actually. So I went back and I watched the part of the stream with Alan Wake 2. And so it's just a trailer for that shows off the Alan Wake part of the game. So previously we've seen stuff with the other character they're introducing, whose name I can't remember. And this is just a short trailer that shows off where Alan Wake is and what he's doing in the game. And it also kind of shows off how they're weaving live action stuff, because Remedy loves to do that. They Quantum Break, Control, they do it with all their games.
And the original Alan Wake as well.
The original Alan Wake as well, yeah. Although not to as large an extent.
Yeah.
As this, because in this they're kind of, they seem to have like full cutscenes in live action and stuff to kind of show off like the dreamlike nature of the thing.
Yeah.
And it looks really good. It looks really kind of mindfucky, and it looks a lot more like a proper survival horror game, like the ones that we've been getting recently with Resident Evil, especially, and Dead Space and stuff. It feels a lot closer to that than the original Alan Wake does now. So yeah, it looks really grounded and really just fantastic.
It does look, yeah, because one of the problems I had with the original Alan Wake was just like the it's not open world, but it's like open area setting when you're driving the car. It just feels clunky, and like you're running.
Really?
I don't really care for that as much. I prefer the horror, like when it's more linear with the horror like settings, like with the jump scares and like things explode at you, and I never cared for the big open sections. I thought they're a little tedious for me. But that game,
I just drove straight through them pretty much.
I did too, but I just don't care for it just doesn't feel like it belongs in this kind of. I always like
Okay, no, I get that.
Yeah, it feels better when it's like you're just going a linear path and you're dodging the enemies and fighting them and all that. But like they just throw in like these sections where you're driving in a car and you are going straight, but it's just like it doesn't fit for me. I mean, the game came out in like 2008, so it's it feels dated, but I like Alan Wake more than you guys probably, but still not like amazing. It's pretty good.
No, that's pretty much where I am. Okay. I think it's not amazing, but I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I
was
not a fan, as we all know.
Yeah, one thing with the not with the trailer they showed at the Jeff's show, but I was watching a behind the scenes thing just before we all got together here, because they've got like a little behind the scenes series on YouTube, and I saw a bit of gameplay of like Alan Wake kind of running past some enemies, and he ran past them like they were zombies in one of the Resident Evil remakes, as opposed to the original Alan Wake, where if you try and, I mean, you cannot outrun enemies in that game.
Not at all.
And they will just go, they will kill you in like 3 hits, and they'll just keep slashing at you.
Yeah.
Like it's so punishing. But it seems like that's not going to be as much an issue in Alan Wake 2, which I'm really thankful for. I'm getting really excited for this game, actually. I'm probably as excited for it now as I am for Spider-Man. I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah, like I'm actually excited as well. First of all, they gave us like out after the showcase, Jeff's show, they had like a 12-minute demo to show like all new gameplay, right? Like, and as you said, it looks very much so like Resident Evil 2 remake or Dead Space. Like that's the style right now. Like, that's the go-to third person behind the back aesthetic, which we haven't had since like when Resident Evil 4 came out, and then Dead Space did it, and like every horror game kind of did that. And then for some reason everybody shifted back to first person, so everybody wanted to do a stealth first person survival game, and now we're back to third person again. But yeah, the visuals look absolutely incredible. Like if there's anything out of this game, if the game ends up being mediocre, which I don't think it will be, the visuals are just jaw dropping. I think Remedy always does visuals really well, but
yeah. So some of those cutscenes even look like real life.
Yeah,
you could say.
God, imagine what games will look like in 10 years if that's what it looks like now. It was mind blowing. Yeah.
No, yeah.
I can't believe I forgot about Alan Wake 2.
I know, right? I can't believe
that was like the biggest game. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
That's what I get for like just like making this. I guess it's because we did this last, so I kind of forgot like a lot of things I looked up like a couple hours ago to refresh my mind, and then I just like blinked.
Sure.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm super hyped for this game. I don't know if it's hyped to Spider-Man. Obviously, Spider-Man is huge for me, but it's definitely on that level. It's a perfect Halloween game. And I just wish, why did everybody put like their games in like October 20th, like around that time? It's like, this is the perfect Halloween game, and like I gotta play Mario, Spider-Man, and Alan Wake at the same time. It's just too much. Now this game feels like something I can maybe beat in a day or two if I like really played it. I doubt it's like 40 hours or anything like that. But I don't want to rush it, so it's just I'll just suck it up, I guess. But I will. I mean, it comes out the 27th, I think now. So, I will be playing it on Halloween, so it fits perfectly. So, yeah.
And one last thing, also, that Hellboy game looks pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm really digging the Hellboy game. I love the aesthetic, the visuals.
The vibes are immaculate on this one.
Yeah, like I love when games have its own unique art style. That can be, it's not a generic like realistic third person adventure game. It's like it actually captures the comic books really well. So, yeah, I think it's coming on Game Pass as well, like day one or something. So
that'd be great.
I think it is. Was it on the Xbox showcase? Like one of them. I don't think it was the recent one, but I think it was one of them. I feel like.
Was this not newly? I thought it looked familiar, but I thought I was maybe conflating it with something else.
No, they've showed this before, for sure. I swear it was the Xbox show. So.
Might have been.
Maybe it's not on Game Pass though, because sometimes they put games on their showcase, but it's not on Game Pass. So, there's that. But anyway, is that everything? I think so. All right. Well. That is our show. We hit on all our topics. So, our next episode, which will be in 2 weeks, we're going to talk about Starfield in depth, like full. Like I'm going to go all out on it. Not a spoiler cast, but just enough where like we're going to hit on pretty much everything without story spoilers. So, we could have did it today if I thought about getting the premium edition and playing it like yesterday and today, but I feel like that game deserves 2 weeks of gameplay before we jump into talking about it. So that's gonna be our main topic. There's gonna be other stuff too, but I just want Starfields are gonna be our main premier topic next episode. So yeah, so thanks for joining me. You all have a good night and peace.
Bye everybody.
Bye.